Chapter 924. A series of powerful beasts roamed around the hall. Some of them were here to register, while others were here to spectate. And Lin had told the Yellow Bull that he was only an ordinary soul formation final stage cultivator, so it was normal for the Yellow Bull to be concerned. After completing the registration procedures, and Lin was led into the spectator area by the Yellow Bull. And Lin, boom! Even the skeletal falcon that had just taunted Lin had collapsed to the ground, leaving behind a pool of its own blood. The ground also began to tremor. Thunderous cheers erupted once again. It was quite clear that this Dark Eagle King was very popular among the spectators. The Yellow Bull shook its head. Not necessarily. He might have to win 10 consecutive victories. He who would have thought that a human would come to participate. Don't tell me he's pissed his pants from fear. Cuckoo! A skeletal falcon cackled. The soul formation intermediate stage, soul, beast trembled uncontrollably with a deathly pale face. Many powerhouses could even gain many insights from the battles between warriors in the arena. The newcomer seemed to have discovered something, and her cackling abruptly ceased before she turned and fled. She was petite and wore a pair of red high heels, but she appeared particularly beautiful and graceful. She looked around with a haughty expression, and her expression was extremely similar to that of Lin's. It was as if she were also saying, "I'm not targeting anyone. I'm just saying that everyone here is trash." The Sun Tree Arena had selected 64 powerful cultivators from the 200 or so participants who had registered for the competition. The result of the battle was that the Dark Eagle King had defeated the Dark Heavenly Horse and secured 3 consecutive victories. And Lin had also made it to the finals. All of them were going to gather together and engage in the cruelest battle to the death. Only one person would be able to walk out of the arena alive. The other 63 powerful beings would all be greeted by death. The young woman smiled as her eyes narrowed slightly. She licked her lips with her little pink tongue as she spoke in a voice as pleasant as an oriole's. None of you will be able to escape today. I'm withdrawing. The battles in the arena continued, and it appeared to be a one-on-one elimination match. There were all kinds of spectators. At a glance, there were nearly 100,000 of them. In the huge waiting room, there were already dozens of Beast Clan powerhouses looking at Lin with malicious intent. A giant black eagle extended its wings that were as sharp as blades and streaked through the air, instantly slicing a tiger-headed 4-winged bird into 2. As soon as they entered, they were frightened by the thunderous and deafening shouts. The gate to the Sun Tree Arena was extremely grand, and it was propped up by 2 golden stone pillars that were over 1,000 meters tall. A white oriole looked at Lin and smiled. Today's battle has already begun. The registration period is over. If you want to participate, you can register for tomorrow's battle. If you surrender, I'll let you die a little easier. In the end, the Dark Eagle King's opponent was another middle stage, soul, transformation, netherworld, heavenly horse. That battle was exceptionally intense. The energy from the collisions was earth-shattering, raising the passion of all the spectators. Cheers and shouts swept across like waves. His opponents were far too weak, and they didn't even have the desire to exchange words with them. Human, have you thought about how you're going to die? He finally obtained a spot to enter the 7th level, and he was so excited that tears streamed down his face. Yo! Hello, all competitors. An extremely pleasant voice sounded, as if it were the voice of nature, drowning out everything else in this world. If you perform exceptionally well and receive the recognition of the judges, you might be able to obtain a spot to enter the 7th level even if you win a single victory, the yellow cow added. And Lin turned his gaze toward the center of the arena. The arena, there was an area with a radius of 5 kilometers, and it was enshrouded by a massive spell formation that prevented the spectators from being affected by the energy fluctuations. And Lin nodded nonchalantly. Then I'll register for tomorrow's battle. The next morning, It's been a long time since I've tasted fresh human flesh. Spectators weren't just there to watch a battle of this caliber, and Lin was led to the waiting room by a graceful female swan. The yellow cow's golden tour guide badge was quite useful here, and there was even a shortcut for registration. Master, this white warbler is very polite. She's much better than the birds outside. Shui Zhantian sighed with emotion. She had admitted her feelings with such sincerity. Her service attitude was truly exemplary, and Lin was astonished. I have to win 3 consecutive victories to obtain a spot to enter the 7th level. He used his divine sense to do a rough scan, and he could sense that the most powerful enemies present were only at the soul formation intermediate stage. It wasn't that he was targeting the contestants, but that these powerhouses were all trash to him. One powerful being after another sneered at Enlin, but Enlin couldn't be bothered to respond. Enlin nodded slightly. The judge was quite powerful, so he most likely wasn't blind and couldn't tell that Enlin was bad. Why am I so unlucky? Whoosh! A red ribbon instantly shot through the air, sweeping up the mountainous body before flinging it toward Enlin. Plop, plop. The crisp sound of footsteps landing on the ground sounded. In the eyes of the spectators, the competitors in the arena weren't mere monkeys. Instead, they were true heroes worthy of respect and admiration. It was exactly because of this that the champions of the arena had a chance to enter the legendary 7th level. Shui Zhantian, he turned to look at the judges. The most powerful judge was a living being in the form of a vermilion bird with 4 wings spread out from its body, and crimson flames burned like silk around its body. And Lin shrugged. He was going to show them what true terror was tomorrow. The woman wore a colorful dress with 9 different colored ribbons dancing around her. She was as beautiful as a peach, and her eyebrows were slightly curved, while her eyes were especially bright and energetic. Sitting on a bench and watching the battle, suddenly exclaiming, "Io!" and then breaking through to the next realm was not a rare thing here. This Dark Eagle King is a super powerful being of the soul formation final stage. I hope he doesn't come tomorrow. Otherwise, you're going to have a tough battle ahead of you, brother Enlin. The yellow cow spoke with furrowed brows. The interior decorations were even more magnificent. Within the registration hall, there were statues of the 10 sun tree war gods, all of whom were dignified and regal. Dark Eagle King, Dark Eagle King, Dark Eagle King. Wah! Wah! A series of cheers sent waves of emotions surging through his heart. None of them were friendly, and even the weakest of them was a spirit-nurturing stage spirit beast. Even Enlin shuddered upon hearing this voice, and he couldn't help but turn his gaze toward the door as a petite figure began to appear in his field of vision. All of the surrounding living beings were standing near it, but they didn't feel any scorching sensation. Bai Ying's ears were extremely sensitive, and she explained with a smile, "We're professionals in disguising our disdain toward you." A human? And Lin's pupils contracted slightly. "Mommy, why is it the Vermilion Bird Princess? I'm not playing anymore, okay?" A huge bird sobbed with its wings folded in front of its head. What was even more surprising to Enlin was that almost all of the contestants had been reduced to trash. All of them were either in despair or howling with anguish. Right at this moment, a hearty roar resounded from afar. "Ha! All of you trash! Allow me, Grandpa Bear, who has won 7 battles in a row, to let you know what a true expert is. Ha ha ha! Jie, that's the main referee of the Vermilion Bird tribe, the Heavenly Flame Vermilion Bird. It's a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage," the yellow cow explained. "Mommy, why is she here? I'm not playing anymore. I'm forfeiting. Save me." Chapter 9:25. And Lin stared at the young woman before him with astonishment on his face. The aura of this Vermilion Bird Princess was simply too powerful, and all of the powerful beings present felt as if they were going to lose for sure. He was a newbie in the arena, so he had no idea what was going on. He scanned the young woman with his divine sense to find that she seemed to be at the soul formation final stage. The 7-match winning bear lying in front of him was also at the soul formation final stage. If they were to fight to the death, there should be a chance that he could win, right? And Lin's brows furrowed in thought. At this moment, the crisp sound of footsteps sounded again. Clatter, clatter. A woman in a colorful dress swayed her slender waist as she made her way toward Lin. Her features were clearly pure and innocent, but she forced herself to put on a seductive expression. Oh, what a rare animal. Humans travel all the way here to fight in the arena? And Lin looked into the young woman's bright eyes. Aren't you a human as well? Me. A smile suddenly appeared on the vermilion bird princess face as she blinked at Lin. Take a guess? And Lin pursed his lips. What's there to guess? You're going to be a dead man once the battle is over. The vermilion bird princess stood rooted to the spot as she stared at Lin with a slightly entranced expression. And Lin took advantage of the height difference to look down on the vermilion bird princess and didn't back down in the slightest. All of the other powerful beings present burst into laughter upon hearing Lin's words. Ha ha ha. This little brother sure is interesting. Where did he get his confidence from? Why does he think he's going to win? To be able to hear such a delightful joke before I die, I really have to thank this human's good intentions. Sigh, what an arrogant *****. A series of mocking and disdainful remarks reverberated through the air. In contrast, a vibrant smile appeared on the vermilion bird princess face. It's been a long time since I've seen such a confident opponent. This is my goal in participating in the arena. She suddenly extended a slender finger to press down on Lin's raised chin. I'm looking forward to my battle with you. I hope you won't disappoint me. And Lin rolled his eyes. The lines were too cliché, and he didn't want to say anything. However, the vermilion bird princess was instantly displeased by the fact that Lin dared to ignore her, and a powerful aura erupted forth, creating an overwhelming sense of pressure. Human, don't be so shameless. To Lin, this kind of imposing manner that conformed to the norms had no effect at all. A golden light flashed across Lin's eyes as he unleashed the divine might technique. As the saying goes, it is impolite not to reciprocate. Golden waves instantly enveloped the surroundings, as if a supreme god was overlooking all living beings. Boom, boom, boom. The participants either foamed at the mouth and fainted, or knelt on the ground with weak legs. All of the participants stared at the man in shock. Waves of shock surged in their hearts. How was this possible? This aura was actually emitted by that human. And Lin was also quite surprised. The vermilion bird princess was swept up by the golden ripples, and her hair danced in the wind as a pair of dimples appeared on her porcelain-like features. She was still smiling, and there was no hint of fear on her face. The heavenly voice sounded again. Human, you really are very interesting. And Lin also looked at the young woman before him with a serious expression. You're also very interesting. I underestimated you. This young woman was not affected by his divine might technique in the slightest. Just as the two of them were locked in a stalemate, a gate suddenly opened, and a wave of raucous cheers erupted from outside. Now, let's welcome participant number 1 and participant number 33. A loud voice traveled into the waiting area, and Lin silently looked at the participant number in his hand. Participant number 33. He silently walked towards the arena. His opponent was a bird with a tiger's head and bat's wings. Its claws were sharp scythes. Participant number 1 is Ling, the demonic bat from the dark shadow demonic cave of the southern heavenly wing nation, while participant number 33 is Lin and from the kingdom of the 9 states, the host announced in a loud voice. Another wave of raucous cheers erupted from the spectator stands as soon as the announcement was made. It had to be said that under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, Listening to these enthusiastic cheers would always make one's blood boil and ignite the desire to fight. What a rare sight. There's a human participating in the arena. This is the core region of the southern heavenly wing nation. Does a mere human think he can survive in the face of so many powerful beings of our tribe? What an arrogant fool. I remember that the last human was swallowed alive by a dragon-headed eagle, right? Wait, that human is called Linen? He's not Enlin from the 4-9 Immortal sect, is he? Haha, I know your idol is Enlin, but it's wrong of you to force Enlin to be Linen. This is an illness that must be treated. That's right. Isn't Enlin studying in the celestial court? Did he have nothing better to do than to come here to play? Even if he did come, with his flexing personality, would he not use his real name? It's just a coincidence. Amidst the discussions and cheers of the audience, the battle finally began. Hell, human, I know you're very powerful, but you're going to die by my scythe. The Ling de demonic bat roared as it pounced toward Enlin like a ghost. Boom! Sharp black blades burst out from its body, forming a space of 100 feet in radius that violently sliced through the air. It's the power of a domain. My God, this bat is at the half-step soul formation stage. Some of the spectators let loose cries of surprise upon seeing this. It was very exciting to see a half-step soul formation stage powerful being appear in the arena. The cheers became even more fervent, and many of the birds were even chanting the Ling de demonic bat's name. Die. The demonic bat was extremely fast, and its domain whistled through the air as its scythe blades tore through the air. In the face of such a powerful attack, Enlin clenched his fist and threw a punch toward the demonic bat. He didn't use any spell techniques. Instead, he relied solely on the power of his divine body. The air began to twist and warp in that instant. The demonic bat's eyes widened, and it didn't even have a chance to react before the domain around its body was crushed by the power of the fist. Boom! An earth-shattering boom erupted. The earth also tremored violently as it cracked open from the power of the fist. As for the half-step soul formation stage demonic bat, it had already been pulverized into nothingness. All of the beasts stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before their eyes, and their cheers abruptly ceased as a peculiar silence fell. The battle had ended before it had even begun, which made them feel very uncomfortable. My God, the Ling de demonic bat was insta-killed. What a terrifying punch! The ground that had been enhanced by a spell formation was still cracked open. Right at this moment, the host's voice sounded again. The winner of the battle is Lin N. Close to 100,000 spectators finally came to their senses, and their cheers erupted into the heavens. At this moment, they knew that this contestant by the name of Lin N was very powerful. He was definitely one of the hot favorites to win today's championship. The main judge, the heavenly flame vermilion bird, looked at Enlin with a meaningful gaze. Contestant Lin N's boxing skills have returned to the basics. That punch just now was only unleashed through the power of his physical body, but it combined his power, speed, and precision to instantly unleash the power of a soul formation final stage cultivator. He is most likely an extremely talented boxing master. The spectators erupted into cheers again upon hearing the main judge's commentary. Many of them were already yelling Lin N's name, and some were even yelling, "Fist God Lin N." And Lin's lips twitched slightly. What F** King, extremely talented boxing master. Fist God Lin N. I only unleashed a casual punch. Even though that was what he was thinking, he still put on a calm and collected facade. A nonchalant smile appeared on his face as he bowed to the enthusiastic spectators before departing from the stage. Now, let's welcome contestant number 2 and contestant number 34. Following the host's announcement, a young woman with a pair of clear and bright eyes and a pair of red high heels stepped onto the stage with a rhythmic rhythm. Deafening cheers erupted from all of the spectators as soon as she appeared. Many of the birds even screeched at the top of their lungs, causing the space around them to tremor violently. This was unprecedented cheering and unprecedented passion. Her appearance instantly created an uproar. An extremely unified voice erupted into the heavens. Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess. Chapter 9:26. The Vermilion Bird Princess was the Sun Tree War God? And Lin was dumbstruck. How was that possible? He knew about the legends of the Sun Tree War Gods. They were mighty beings who had secured over 100 consecutive victories in the 10,000 years since the arena was first established. There were only 10 Sun Tree War Gods, and their statues were all displayed in the registration hall. There was no statue of the Vermilion Bird Princess. However, it seemed like everyone knew about the Vermilion Bird Princess except for him. Was there something wrong? And Lin walked toward the waiting area with a confused expression. The Vermilion Bird Princess was already making her way out of the waiting area. Not bad, Linen. The Vermilion Bird Princess patted on Lin's shoulder in a friendly manner, and a vibrant smile appeared on her exquisite features as she praised Lin like an old friend. And Lin was curious. You're the Sun Tree War God? No. The Vermilion Bird Princess shook her head. Then why do they all call you the Sun Tree War God? And Lin was perplexed. The Vermilion Bird Princess turned to Lin with a peculiar expression. Brother, you really don't know my name? You don't understand anything. Yet you came to the wrestling ring. You're really ambitious. I don't think there's a need to know anything. I'm going to be the final champion anyway. And Lin replied with an honest expression. Puffed. The Vermilion Bird Princess couldn't help but burst into laughter. You're so interesting, Linen. I'm really looking forward to my match with you. I'm in a hurry, so I'll be going now. The skeletal falcon had tears streaming down its face. Don't worry, I can wait. You guys can continue chatting. And Lin immediately interjected. You still haven't answered my question. Haha, I'm not telling you. Guess. The Vermilion Bird Princess stuck out her tongue at Lin before turning to leave the arena. And Lin was so angry. The host's excited voice sounded. Our contestant number 34, the Vermilion Bird Princess, has participated in 99 arena battles in the past 10 years and secured 99 consecutive victories. Today will be her 100th arena battle. If she can become the final champion, our Sun Tree will welcome its 11th War God. Let us give the Vermilion Bird Princess our warmest applause. The crowd burst into cheers once again like a flash flood. Vermilion Bird Princess. Sun Tree War God. Victory. Vermilion Bird Princess. And Lin. All right, there was no need to guess anymore. The host had the ability to assist. So the Vermilion Bird Princess was the war god of the arena. 99 consecutive victories was equivalent to 100 consecutive victories. So it was no exaggeration to say that she was a true war god. No wonder she was so popular. And Lin smiled faintly. What a pity. Her winning streak was about to end here. 99 wins in a row, all for naught. Could this be the will of the heavens? The Vermilion Bird Princess quickly calmed herself down and extended warm greetings to all of the spectators. Long time no see. Did you miss me? Looking forward to my battle. I love you guys, Mwax. A vibrant smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face as she yelled to the audience of close to 100,000. In the gladiator arena, the cheers of the audience lasted for a long time, and Lin stared speechlessly at the scenes unfolding before him. Holy F***CK. Why was the Vermilion Bird Princess entrance so down to earth? It felt like a celebrity was holding a concert. Couldn't she at least act like a war god? The skeletal falcon was extremely depressed. Never would it have thought that no one would pay attention to it in the final battle of its eagle life. It had been reduced to a mere blade of grass that served as a foil to a flower. Even the host had skipped out on its introduction. Soon, the referee announced the commencement of the battle. Vermilion Bird Princess, can you go easy on me? The skeletal falcon implored. A vibrant smile appeared on the vermilion bird princess face as she wagged a slender finger. That'll depend on your performance. And Lin's interest was piqued. He wanted to see just how powerful this vermilion bird princess was. The skeletal falcon was a spirit beast at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage, so the vermilion bird princess should be able to insta-kill it. However, Lin would be able to gauge her power the moment she attacked. Chirp! The skeletal falcon let loose a sharp screech before opening its beak to blast forth a series of sharp blades of wind. Each of the blades of wind was powerful enough to slice through steel with ease. The vermilion bird princess stepped forward and evaded one of the blades of wind at an extremely fast speed before closing in on the skeletal falcon. The skeletal falcon's heart jolted with shock as it spread open its bony wings, upon which the white bones on its wings transformed into spears that shot toward the vermilion bird princess at a speed that was almost invisible to the naked eye. The vermilion bird princess twisted her agile body at an incredible angle to evade one spear after another. Her high heels cracked the ground beneath her feet as she abruptly flew toward the skeletal falcon. The skeletal falcon immediately turned its wings around in fear before slashing toward the vermilion bird princess like blades. The vermilion bird princess leaned back, and her slender waist curved like a water snake as she evaded the attack from her bony wings. Her colorful dress fluttered in the wind like a flower blossoming in the air. Her well-proportioned legs swept through the air in a graceful arc as her red high heels fell upon the skeletal falcon's head with a dangerous glint. Boom! The sound of something heavy crashing erupted. A red ripple proliferated forth, accompanied by the sound of bones shattering. The skeletal falcon's mouth gaped open, but it didn't even get a chance to make a sound before it fell to the ground. The winner is the vermilion bird princess. The MC announced the result in a loud voice. Thunderous cheers erupted from the arena once again as everyone chanted the vermilion bird princess name. Thank you for your support, everyone. How was my battle? Did everyone like it? Do you think I'm a graceful and adorable woman? The vermilion bird princess interacted with the spectators with elation, and all of them were roaring their throats out. The atmosphere was extremely lively and didn't die down for a long time. This was a clean insta-kill. The spectators weren't surprised. Instead, they felt like this was only to be expected. However, Lin's expression was one of surprise. He wouldn't be surprised if it was an insta-kill under normal circumstances. However, the vermilion bird princess insta-kill method made him draw a sharp intake of breath. This girl really knows how to have fun, Lin murmured to himself. The skeletal falcon was a powerful being at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage, but the vermilion bird princess had repressed her energy, fluctuations to the spirit-nurturing initial stage. Her strength, speed, vital energy utilization rate, all of her attributes had been repressed to around the spirit-nurturing initial stage. Most of the spectators couldn't see this, but Lin did. This meant that the vermilion bird princess had repressed her energy, fluctuations to the spirit-nurturing initial stage before insta-killing the skeletal falcon at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage. The reason why she was able to do this was due to her extremely precise control over the timing of the battle, her extraordinary battle instincts, and her battle style that was imbued with the laws of heaven and earth. In any case, she was very powerful. Her battle prowess was absolutely astonishing. This was a powerful being who liked to battle above her rank. What would it be like if she fought with her full power as a soul formation pinnacle stage cultivator? Lin's expression became grave. This was an opponent worthy of his attention. After interacting with the spectators for a while, the vermilion bird princess returned to the waiting area. She turned to Lin with a dainty smile. How about it? Do you regret coming to participate after seeing my battle? Are you scared? It's just defeating a spirit beast at the spirit-nurturing pinnacle stage. What's there to brag about? Lin spoke with a disdainful expression. You really don't understand? The vermilion bird princess's bright eyes reflected his expression. Understand what? And Lin played dumb. The vermilion bird princess pursed her lips and ignored Lin as she turned her head to the side and made her way to another corner. A lonely expression that no one could understand appeared on her face, and Lin chuckled coldly in his heart. He was going to show her what true power was during the actual battle and give her a huge surprise. Chapter 9:27. The elimination matches were still ongoing, and the atmosphere in the arena was still as lively as ever. Soon, there were only 32 contestants left from the 64 contestants. This time, and Lin's opponent was a flying python, which was even weaker than the Ling, the demonic bat. It was only at the spirit-nurturing final stage, and it was slain by Lin with a single punch. The vermilion bird princess opponent was a soul beast of the soul formation initial stage with a domain. She restricted her cultivation base to the spirit-nurturing final stage before crushing the soul beast's head with her high heels. Aside from the two of them, Big Bear, who had won 7 consecutive matches, was also very powerful and won very easily. However, its expression was quite unsightly, and its mountainous body would tremble involuntarily at the sight of the petite figure in the waiting room. The arena had to know the cultivation base of the contestants, and Lin's cultivation base was naturally at the soul formation final stage. It was exactly because of this that he would be fighting against some other powerful beings. After a while, there were only 16 contestants left. In the quarterfinals, Lin continued to crush his opponent with another simple punch, and his opponent was reduced to ashes. In the quarterfinals, Lin's opponent was a huge bird of ice. The huge bird of ice was over 1,000 feet tall, and its appearance instantly transformed the entire arena into its exclusive territory. This was a powerful being of the soul formation intermediate stage. This bird was very powerful, and the spectators in the arena began to yell with excitement. There were also many people yelling the bird's name, so it was clear that this was a powerful being with a lot of popularity. Just as the spectators thought that an intense battle was about to ensue, and Lin unleashed another mundane punch. The power behind the punch caused the air to twist and warp, and a transparent yet terrifying shockwave tore through the domain of wind and snow before landing on the huge bird of ice. Boom! Energy exploded, and even the protective barrier around the formation tremored violently. The huge bird of ice let loose a wail of anguish as its body shattered like glass, and white blood splattered through the air. It's here! Fist God Lin and's return to simplicity punch. Insta-kill! Insta-kill again! Who would have thought that he would be able to insta-kill a soul beast of the soul formation intermediate stage with a single punch? Fist God Lin and's fist techniques are not for show. Ah, he's so cool. Just as the audience was cheering to their heart's content, the old cow's face was full of worry. Shui Zhantian patted the cow's head upon seeing this. Why do you look so worried? Can't you see that my master is invincible and unstoppable? The yellow cow heaved a faint sigh. Brother Lin is indeed very powerful. In any of the previous arenas, he would have a very good chance of becoming the champion, but he's facing the vermilion bird princess now. A disdainful expression appeared on Shui Zhantian's face. Isn't the vermilion bird princess at the soul formation pinnacle stage? He's just a living being that hasn't even reached the return to void stage. What the F***CK do I have to be afraid of? The vermilion bird princess is indeed not a return to void stage mighty figure. The yellow cow looked at the waiting room in the distance with a hint of awe and veneration in its eyes. But she has killed return to void stage mighty figures in the arena. Shui Zhantian. Unknowingly, there were only 4 contestants left in the arena. The sun had already set into the clouds, and the red light of the setting sun shone down upon the arena, giving it a bleak and tragic appearance. The atmosphere in the arena reached a second climax. This was a battle between Fist God Lin and the Black Wind Bear Tyrant, who had won 7 consecutive victories. That's right, The Black Wind Bear Tyrant was the guy who had referred to himself as Big Bear. Even though he referred to himself as Big Bear, he had been scared witless by the Vermilion Bird Princess and had completely shamed the arena champion. Roar! Linen, before I battle the Vermilion Bird Princess. Let me have a good time. I'll let you know how terrifying the arena's winning streak champion is. The bear tyrant cackled as all of the black fur on its body stood on end, and a powerful aura swept forth. And Lin had no interest in talking to weaklings, and he launched an almighty punch. It's here. Fist God Lin and's return to simplicity punch. All of the spectators let loose cries of surprise as they stared at the human's fist with wide eyes. A devastating fist projection hurtled toward the bear tyrant with unstoppable force. The bear tyrant let loose an almighty roar as it unleashed its power at the Soul Formation pinnacle stage. Bursts of black light soared into the sky, making it appear as if it were an ancient fiend celestial. Its claws were enshrouded in raging black winds as it viciously slammed toward Lin's fist projection. Boom! The collision of energy caused the earth to crumble as the power of black wind surged throughout the entire arena. The bear tyrant stumbled back a few steps as blood trickled from the corner of its lips, and an expression of shock appeared on its face. It was blocked. Fist God Lin and's return to simplicity punch was blocked by the bear tyrant. This is going to be an earth-shattering battle, the MC announced with excitement. All of the spectators were also getting excited. In their eyes, Lin and's fists were invincible. In the past, he had been able to defeat a child with a single punch, but now he had encountered an opponent who could block his fists. As expected of the Black Wind Bear Tyrant, who has won 7 consecutive victories, Fist God Lin and is in danger now. I wonder if Fist God Lin still has any energy left after unleashing that terrifying punch. If he has overexerted himself, then he really is going to lose. Humph! The Black Wind Bear Tyrant is the champion of our arena after winning 7 consecutive victories. He won't be defeated that easily. I'm rooting for the Bear Tyrant. Go, Bear Tyrant! Cheers and heated discussions immediately erupted. The Black Wind Bear Tyrant took a deep breath before abruptly thumping its chest. Lin En, you really are a rare, powerful being. I'm fired up. It's my turn now. I'm going to dig out your heart, hold it in my hands, and devour it. And Lin's lips twitched. Was there something wrong with this black bear? Roar! The Black Wind Bear Tyrant let loose an almighty roar as its massive body instantly broke through the sound barrier. It spread open its paws, which were imbued with extremely terrifying power, and at the same time the word "the world" appeared on its palm. Bear dominates the world. The bear paw crashed down upon Lin, and gale force winds swept through the area within a radius of over 1 kilometer. Even the ground that had been reinforced by spell formations couldn't help but cave in, and Lin heaved a faint sigh as he looked at the oncoming paw. A golden lotus insignia flashed on his forehead, and a golden light imbued with the power of the earth appeared on his fist as he unleashed an almighty punch. The golden light tore through the black wind like a sharp sword, and the power of the vast earth crashed down upon the bear tyrant's massive paw. Boom! The collision of energy caused the entire arena to tremor violently. Immediately afterward, the projection of the golden fist tore through the bear paw before crashing into the Black Wind Bear Tyrant's chest. Ah! The bear tyrant let loose a blood-curdling cry as the golden fist caved in its mountainous body, upon which a golden light erupted from its body. The fist seemed to be imbued with the power of an entire continent, and it crashed down upon its body in a frenzy. Then, right before the incredulous eyes of close to 100,000 spectators, the bear tyrant's body was pulverized by the fist, leaving behind only chunks of flesh that fell to the ground. Deathly silence ensued. All of the spectators stared at the human male on the arena with astonishment on their faces. What happened to the intense battle? Why was it insta-killed again? That's the bear tyrant at the soul formation pinnacle stage. How could he die so easily? Just how strong is that Lin? Lin An's fist technique is imbued with some kind of extremely terrifying power. He is truly deserving of the title of Fist God. At this moment, the host's excited voice also began to ring out, "It's here!" In the nick of time, Fist God Lin unleashed a punch that transcends beyond return to simplicity. This is the Transcendence Fist that contains the pinnacle of fist techniques, a punch that transcends beyond the soul formation realm. The host once again defined in Lin's fist technique and used all kinds of bad *SS words to praise him to the heavens. The audience listened excitedly, and Lin couldn't be bothered with all of this. He wasn't a vain person. He merely bowed to the close to 100,000 spectators before his confident and domineering voice pierced through the air and fell upon the ears of all of the beasts present. What *T bear dominates the world? It's nothing compared to my fist dominates the world. The entire arena fell silent for a moment before erupting into raucous cheers and screams. The name of Fist God Lin had reverberated throughout the heavens. Chapter 928. And Lin walked down from the battlefield amid raucous cheers from the spectators. The Vermilion Bird Princess was battling another soul formation, final stage, two-headed blue crow. And Lin became an onlooker as he carefully observed the Vermilion Bird Princess battle. This time, the Vermilion Bird Princess restricted her cultivation base to the soul formation initial stage, and her movement techniques were extremely agile and graceful. The two-headed blue crow had 2 heads and 4 eyes, but it was still unable to see the Vermilion Bird Princess movement techniques. The blue crow spat out streaks of corrosive blue light from its mouth, but the Vermilion Bird Princess evaded all of them. As the Vermilion Bird Princess closed in on it, the twin-headed blue crow had no choice but to unleash an area of effect spell technique that expended a large amount of energy, filling the space within a radius of several hundred meters with blue liquid. Splash! The blue liquid enshrouded the blue crow like a ball of water. This liquid was terrifyingly corrosive. Even if a soul beast in the deity transformation tier accidentally touched it, its body would be instantly melted into a skeleton. The Vermilion Bird Princess stopped running with a resigned expression. "Oi, if you want to fight, then fight. What's the point of hiding like a turtle?" The two-headed blue crow stared at the Vermilion Bird Princess with shock and horror on its face as a few pillars of water shot forth, like sharp swords from the blue liquid. The Vermilion Bird Princess evaded the blue crow's water pillars expressionlessly. It was quite clear that these attacks weren't meant to be. The Vermilion Bird Princess pursed her lips. The two-headed blue crow didn't dare to move anymore as it tried its best to maintain its defensive techniques. Everyone fell silent again. The two of them faced off, and neither of them dared to make a move. The atmosphere was extremely tense, and it felt like it was about to congeal. After what seemed like an eternity. "You continue. I'm going to take a break." The Vermilion Bird Princess yawned and constructed a lounge chair out of blue streamers. She lay down on the chair and looked at the two-headed blue crow with a leisurely expression. All of the spectators were quite displeased to see this. How had a battle devolved into this state? Many of the spectators couldn't help but curse at the two-headed blue crow, saying that it was a disgrace to the entire bird tribe. They had never seen a coward that only defended and didn't attack. As for the Vermilion Bird Princess, who didn't choose to attack, she was so adorable, so she naturally chose to forgive. The twin-headed blue crow felt extremely stifled. "Damn it! It's not like you are the ones fighting a life-and-death duel on the battlefield. It's easy for you to say that. If I really rush over recklessly, I will die." It had not given up hope. It wanted to win. The reason why the twin-headed blue crow went all out in defense was not because it was afraid, but because it wanted to find a flaw in the young lady's defense during this period of time and launch a sudden attack, catching her off guard. It was impossible to face her head-on. Only a surprise attack would have a chance of victory and end the girl's terrifying 99-win record. As long as it could kill the Vermilion Bird Princess, its reputation would skyrocket, and it would become a being that was on par with the Sun Tree War God. Perhaps he would even be able to take a step further in his Tao realm and reach the return to Void stage. Then it would look for Enlin from the celestial court and become a celestial beast that was revered by tens of thousands of beasts. Yes, the desperate situation in front of it was only a crucial step for it to reach the peak of its glorious life. Are you tired, silly blue crow? A clear and melodious voice sounded. The Vermilion Bird Princess was lying leisurely on a recliner constructed from colorful silk, and a sly smile appeared on her face. She stretched lazily upon seeing the twin-headed blue crow's lack of response. Her exquisite and well-proportioned legs swayed slightly as her red high heels left the ground. The twin-headed blue crow's eyes narrowed upon seeing this. This was a good opportunity. The Vermilion Bird Princess expression was lazy, and her body had left the ground without any external support. This was the perfect opportunity for her to strike. The twin-headed blue crow was just about to strike when it suddenly felt a chill run down its spine. What's going on? It twisted its neck slightly. Crack, splat! The twin-headed blue crow's two heads crashed to the ground, and blood gushed forth like fountains. The two heads that tumbled to the ground still had expressions of horror and indignation on their faces. It had woken up from its dream. Reality was so cruel, and it didn't even have a chance to strike. The mouths of close to 100,000 spectators gaped open upon seeing this, and they were unable to disguise their astonishment. They saw a blue ribbon that was as sharp as a blade within the twin-headed blue crow's liquid domain. The blue ribbon had shot forth from the ground at an extremely fast speed, and it had appeared just as the twin-headed blue crow was staring intently at the Vermilion Bird Princess. What on earth happened? It's a chair. Look! That ribbon extended into the ground from the corner of the Vermilion Bird Princess chair, then pierced through the ground and into the twin-headed blue crow's domain. This move is too amazing. Both the method of her sneak attack and the timing of her sneak attack were perfect. The Vermilion Bird Princess used her lazy and helpless expression to attract the twin-headed blue crow's attention, and the moment she revealed an opening to the twin-headed blue crow was the moment when the killing intent appeared. What a spectacular move! As expected of the Vermilion Bird Princess, she will definitely be crowned the Sun Tree War God tonight. She will receive supreme glory. All of the spectators became extremely excited, and they began to discuss fervently among themselves as they cheered for the Sun Tree War God in their hearts. The twin-headed blue crow's body fell to the ground. As the star of the battle, the Vermilion Bird Princess stood up with a smile on her face and wrapped the blue ribbon around her left arm before skipping over to interact with the spectators again. Hey, big sisters and big brothers, were you all astonished by my performance? Do you like this battle? What's the name of this move? Let's call it cute muddling through. Cute means acting cute. Didn't you guys think the Vermilion Bird Princess battle style was very cute? The light of the setting sun shone down on the young woman's face, and her bright and pure smile seemed to have a sense of harmony in the cruel and bloody arena. Do you like the Vermilion Bird Princess? If you like me, then praise me more. The Vermilion Bird Princess has excellent hearing, so I can hear everything you're saying. Hi, friends from the West, were you cheering for me? And Lin massaged his brows as he looked at the energetic young woman. What an adorable young woman. What should he do? To be honest, if Enlin had to kill a ferocious-looking beast, he definitely wouldn't show any mercy. In fact, he would do it in a very direct and efficient manner. However, he just couldn't bring himself to kill such an adorable young woman. Perhaps it was because he didn't want to destroy some beautiful things. That's right. This was a world where appearances mattered a lot. Only perverts would want to destroy beautiful things when they saw them. Any normal person would want to protect it and cherish it. And Lin calmed himself down as a determined expression appeared on his face. He was a little reluctant, but if only one person could make it out of this arena alive, then they couldn't blame him for killing her. He was going to become the champion of this arena. Chapter 9:29. The Vermilion Bird Princess was on the verge of tears. Can you be a little more normal? A little more normal in your fighting style. There were only a few spots on the spectator stands that were lit up by flames. All of the spectators were dumbstruck. Bam! Shock waves swept forth for several kilometers. Popularity didn't give him any buffs, so all he had to do was defeat the Vermilion Bird Princess fair and square. The Vermilion Bird Princess suddenly charged toward Lin at an extremely fast speed. She let loose a cry of surprise and was just about to retreat when a powerful hand grabbed onto her leg, following which an indescribably terrifying force erupted. Never would she have thought that Lin would do something like this to such a delicate flower. "Can I?" Lin asked. Lin then repeated his previous actions, which were to smash the Vermilion Bird Princess' leg into the ground with infinite force. Even though night had fallen, the atmosphere at the arena had reached its climax. What a terrifying fist technique! Lin turned to the Vermilion Bird Princess with a peculiar expression. "Now let's welcome the two warriors." The battle that everyone was looking forward to the most was finally about to begin. The power that Lin had displayed, as well as the special significance of this final battle, prompted the MC to introduce Lin. There was no tragedy like what had happened to the Vermilion Bird Princess' previous opponent, who was completely ignored. The MC's impassioned voice sounded. "This is the most anticipated battle in the past 10 years. No, it should be the most anticipated battle in the past 1,000 years. This battle will decide whether our sun tree will be able to give birth to a true war god." The Vermilion Bird Princess' clothes were disheveled, and she was just about to resist when the hand that had grabbed onto her leg exerted a terrifying force, and her body was flung into the air before crashing heavily onto the ground. However, this was very slow for Lin. Boom! This idiot is suppressing his cultivation base to the soul formation intermediate stage. Everyone! The finals of the arena are about to begin. The Vermilion Bird Princess' expression shifted, and she abruptly stomped the ground before leaping into the air like a bird. A golden light surged forth, and the terrifying power of the earth within a radius of over a kilometer cracked open. The ground shook violently, and a ghastly hole appeared in it. The Vermilion Bird Princess is so adorable. How could he do something like that? Rumble. The Vermilion Bird Princess' pupils contracted. Her attack, which was powerful enough to crush the head of a mighty figure at the soul formation pinnacle stage, seemed to have struck something extremely sturdy and was unable to penetrate any further. Holy sh*T! My Vermilion Bird Princess. After being stunned for a few seconds, the blue ribbon slashed at Lin's arm like the sharpest blade. The mountain-quaking fist and the golden ribbon collided, resulting in a deafening explosion. "Beast, release that girl!" The golden lotus on Lin's forehead flashed, and a golden light instantly enveloped his fist. At the same time, the power of his divine body erupted forth as he launched a fist toward the Vermilion Bird Princess. 100% mountain quaking fist. The Vermilion Bird Princess drew a sharp intake of breath as she glared at Lin with shock in her eyes. "This is the first time I've encountered an opponent who has made such a rude request." And Lin felt a stab of pain, and he instinctively slammed the Vermilion Bird Princess into the ground again. Rumble. The earth tremored as a massive crater appeared on the ground. Even the blue sea continent on the 5th level could hear the raucous cheers and raucous roars. Vermilion Bird Princess. The Vermilion Bird Princess was being ravaged by Lin, and all of the spectators erupted into an uproar. Even though Lin had performed very well and garnered a lot of fans, most of the spectators were still chanting the Vermilion Bird Princess name, so the entire arena was filled with the chants of Sun Tree War God Vermilion Bird Princess. Seeing as you're still suppressing your power like an idiot, then I'm going to make your death less painful, the Vermilion Bird Princess harumphed. I'm a natural beauty, and I'm completely different from a monster. You've gone too far, and I'm not going to forgive you. Come on, I'm going to beat the crap out of you. There were no flames set up anywhere else, including the battleground within the spell formation. All of the beast tribe powerful beings had very good eyesight, and under the illumination of the moon, the space around them wasn't actually very dark. It only added a hint of coldness and killing intent. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, the Vermilion Bird Princess flipped around, and her red high heels tore through the air with a sharp screech. The tip of her high heels glowed with a terrifying red light of death, and it left a trail of blood in its wake before landing on Lin's face. The Vermilion Bird Princess was even more popular than the 10 Sun Tree War gods in the arena. It was clearly impossible for Lin to surpass the Vermilion Bird Princess in terms of popularity through a single battle. Night fell, and the purple leaves on the trees glowed faintly, and Lin's heart jolted. So adorable. Will the Vermilion Bird Princess create the legend of 100 consecutive victories and ascend to the position of Sun Tree War God? Or will Fist God Lin break the Vermilion Bird Princess 99 consecutive victories? Everything will be decided in this battle, and Lin didn't really care about all of this. This was the first time he had encountered an opponent who was actively suppressing their power in a battle of life and death. To be honest, this was quite a unique experience. The sky was littered with stars, and the pristine white moonlight shone down upon the arena, creating a layer of silvery white light. The Vermilion Bird Princess was also knocked flying for several hundred meters, and a few strands of her hair were plastered to her delicate face. Her breathing accelerated, and she appeared to be in quite a sorry state. 9 different colored ribbons revolved around her body, and a faint light emanated from them, making her appear as if she were a celestial maiden under the moon. Ah, I'm going to kill Linen. The Vermilion Bird Princess' heart jolted with shock, and the golden ribbon around her waist suddenly began to move. It revolved in front of her to form a circular barrier. The Vermilion Bird Princess wasn't much better off, and she was a little dazed from the impact. What thick skin! Ow, ow, ow! An extremely powerful aura began to surge from her body as she spoke, and Lin's figure appeared before her, and his fist struck thin air. The earth tremored violently again, and Lin gripped tightly onto the Vermilion Bird Princess calf, and a cruel smile appeared on his face as he slammed the Vermilion Bird Princess toward the ground. The Vermilion Bird Princess was just about to use her phantom-like movement techniques to evade Lin's attack, but she discovered that Lin's fists seemed to be everywhere, and she had nowhere to run. Lin heaved a faint sigh. I really can't bear to kill such an adorable young woman like you. How about you transform into a monster so that it'll be easier for me to kill you? Come on. The Vermilion Bird Princess crossed her arms. I refuse. Linen, I've been waiting for this battle with you. Her body created a massive crater in the ground, which had been reinforced by the spell formation. Boom! The MC's voice fell, and the entire venue erupted into raucous cheers again. The Vermilion Bird Princess stared at Lin with a pair of bright eyes. In the next instant, Lin disappeared on the spot. Chapter 930. Lin wore a cold expression at the sight of the Vermilion Bird Princess' pitiful expression. He wasn't going to go easy on her. How was he going to get out of this battle if he didn't fight to the death? How was he going to enter the top 3 levels and find the guardian of the divine tree if he didn't become the champion? Lin grabbed onto the Vermilion Bird Princess calf and was just about to smash her into the ground like a towel. However, a sharp orange light flashed through the Vermilion Bird Princess' eyes, and her bound leg bent as she kicked toward Lin's arm with her other leg. An orange blade projection suddenly appeared on her red high heel, which struck a certain meridian node in Lynn's arm. The extreme sharpness of the blade even tore a series of tiny cracks into the air. The orange light exploded, and an extremely numb sensation finally made Lynn's joints shudder. The Vermilion Bird Princess took advantage of this opportunity to quickly evade Lynn's demonic claws before retreating for over a kilometer. What terrifying defensive prowess! If a normal return to Void Stage mighty figure was struck by that attack, their entire arm would have been severed, but you didn't even get a single scratch on your arm. The Vermilion Bird Princess expression became extremely grave as rainbow colors suddenly began to swirl around her eyes. At the same time, a series of rainbow lines began to appear on her cheeks. Boom! An extremely terrifying aura erupted into the sky. An astonishing aura materialized into substantial waves that surged in all directions, and any weak living beings that dared to approach her would be pulverized by her terrifying aura. It's here, the Vermilion Bird Princess, second form. Some spectators suddenly let loose cries of surprise. 10 years ago, the Vermilion Bird Princess unleashed her second form and slew a celestial maiden at the pinnacle of the return to Void initial stage. It was also during that battle that she became the 11th war god in the hearts of all living beings on the Sun Tree. Who would have thought that Lynn would be able to force the Vermilion Bird Princess to unleash her second form? Lynn can die with no regrets after this battle. The fact that he was able to battle the Vermilion Bird Princess in her second form will definitely spread throughout the entire southern Heavenly Wing Nation. It's a pity. Fist God Lynn is going to fall here. There were also many in the audience who expressed their regret for Lynn's experience. However, Lynn was very calm on the stage. There was a faint excitement in his eyes. The Vermilion Bird Princess was finally using her full power. Pinnacle stage of the Soul Formation stage versus pinnacle stage of the Soul Formation stage. This was what a real battle looked like. Lynn could barely be considered a Soul Formation pinnacle stage cultivator, as his next cultivation stage was the return to Void stage. The Vermilion Bird Princess was the most powerful Soul Formation stage cultivator he had ever seen, and her control over her own power was absolutely astonishing. If it weren't for the fact that he had so many hacks, he wouldn't be able to guarantee that he would be able to defeat the Vermilion Bird Princess. The two of them confronted each other on the battlefield. "My little princess, how did you become a little tabby cat?" And Lynn said with some amusement. The Vermilion Bird Princess gritted her teeth and glowered at Lynn with a ferocious expression. "Very well, Lynn, you've successfully angered me. I'll tear you apart now." She abruptly stomped the ground as she spoke, and her body shot forth like a bolt of lightning, appearing right before Lynn in the blink of an eye before kicking toward Lynn's crotch. What a vicious attack! And Lynn had already unleashed his divine inspection technique, and he shifted to the side to evade the orange light-enhanced high heel before unleashing a punch at the same time. The Vermilion Bird Princess moved like a rabbit and instantly evaded Lynn's punch. At the same time, a red ribbon shot forth from her right hand, which wound itself around Lynn's arm like a spirit snake. "That's the arm." A look of hatred appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face as she recalled the scene of Lynn's arm grabbing onto her leg and pummeling her, and a crimson light flashed through her eyes. "I'll start with that arm." The red ribbon glowed with a brilliant light, and Lynn could sense an extremely scorching energy surging toward him. Boom! Scorching energy erupted from the ribbon, and a crimson pillar of flames rose into the sky before proliferating outward. The scorching temperatures melted the ground within a radius of over a kilometer, and even space itself began to twist and warp. Everything in the wake of the wave of flames was incinerated. Shui Zhantian stared blankly at the scenes unfolding before his eyes from the spectator stands. What a terrifying attack! Scorching heaven and scorching earth, incinerating all things. This level of power can even incinerate a return to void stage, mighty figure to death. The yellow cow also wore a forlorn expression. Sigh, it's a pity that big brother in Lin is a freakish cultivator. Many of the spectators were staring intently at the center of the battle. There, the flames gradually dissipated. Two figures began to appear. He's not dead. Lin isn't dead. My God, he managed to block the vermilion bird princess attack. All of the spectators began to let loose cries of surprise. The vermilion bird princess was also astonished to find that a section of her ribbon had been incinerated. And Lin's figure began to appear. He wore a suit of four-colored divine flame armor, and he stood on the spot like a monarch of flames, completely unscathed. You want to compete with me in flames? You're still too young. He extended a finger, and crimson feathers of flames fell from the sky before materializing into arrows. First stage of the wings of true fire, Crimson God Arrow. The Crimson God Arrow was constructed from feathers, but it had the holy vermilion flame as its core. The two of them combined as one, and the terrifying temperatures emanating from them made even the space around them tremble. The hairs on the vermilion bird princess body stood on end, and she was just about to unleash a phantom-like movement technique to evade the attack when the ground beneath her feet suddenly became inky black. At the same time, a terrifying gravitational force descended upon her body, and even her bones began to crack and crack. Her body faltered. Abyssal gravity. And Lin controlled the darkness with one hand as he pointed his other toward the vermilion bird princess. The Crimson God Arrow left a scorching, twisted trajectory in the air before stabbing toward the vermilion bird princess chest. The golden ribbon around the vermilion bird princess waist instantly formed a barrier in front of her, and the crimson arrow struck the golden ribbon, upon which a sharp screeching sound erupted. In the end, the white holy flames within the barrier melted the golden ribbon. Move for me, a clear and melodious voice rang out. The blue ribbon around the vermilion bird princess ankles allowed her to break free from the abyssal shackles at this critical moment, thereby shifting her body slightly. In that instant, the white holy flames tore through the air before puncturing the vermilion bird princess shoulder. A hole appeared on her colorful dress, and an inky black that was scorched into her delicate skin. The vermilion bird princess hurtled back in retreat again. This time, and Lin wasn't going to wait for her to regroup, and he immediately pounced toward her. All of the spectators let loose cries of surprise upon seeing the vermilion bird princess injured in her second form. The intensity of the battle made them forget how to speak. Only a small portion of the spectators couldn't help but grumble. Wasn't Fist God Lin and supposed to use his fists? Why was he so good at using flames? No one replied to them. Everyone was watching the battle with bated breath. The vermilion bird princess harumphed lightly upon seeing and Lin charging toward her, and the purple ribbon behind her erupted with a brilliant light before exploding into a purple mist that enshrouded the entire space. Illusionary mist. Even a return to void stage mighty figure would be struck by this extremely powerful illusionary mist, and their consciousness would be damaged as a result. A faint smile appeared on the vermilion bird princess lips as she prepared to investigate the situation. A calm voice suddenly sounded from behind her. This illusionary mist is not bad, but you might not believe me. A searing pain shot through the vermilion bird princess body as the inky black sword blade punctured through her heart, staining her crimson blood. The power of my consciousness can crush the vast majority of return to void stage mighty figures. I can detect any illusionary mist trapping spell formation with my consciousness. And Lin appeared behind the vermilion bird princess with a triumphant smile on his face. Goodbye, little tabby cat. Chapter 931. The power of the red lotus passed through his body. There's nothing we can do about it. Only one of the participants in the dueling ring can survive. And Lin heaved a forlorn sigh as the power within his body flowed into the evil-slaying sword in his right hand. The most violent power exuded from the blade of the sword, and it was about to sever the woman's vitality. A tearing pain came from Lin's waist, and his body was kicked to change direction again. Close to 100,000 spectators witnessed an incredulous scene. The Vermilion Bird Princess had her heart punctured by Lin and sword. She flipped her body sideways, and her colorful dress looked like a blooming, colorful lotus in the air. A red glow arrived first, and her calf actually flew towards Lin's crotch in an extremely vicious manner. The fairy artifact, Little Red Boots, exploded with waves of celestial might, and Lin felt a sharp pain between his eyebrows, and he quickly retreated. Even with the formation, the aura emanating from the Vermilion Bird Princess is more fearsome than the patriarchs of my sect. The white and black ribbons around the Vermilion Bird Princess body had already intertwined to form a spear exuding extremely terrifying energy fluctuations, which flew toward Lin's glabella. And Lin knew he had won as soon as he plunged his evil-slaying sword into the Vermilion Bird Princess heart. Doesn't Fist God Lin use his fists? Why is he so good at using a sword? And Lin's body of the war god was able to remain unscathed even in the face of attacks from return to void intermediate stage mighty figures. However, it was showing signs of crumbling under the relentless barrage of attacks, and Lin sensed the energy rippling from the red high heels, and his face twitched. Not only did she self-destruct, she even used a high-grade immortal weapon. That's too much. Little Red Boots, activate. Her breasts rose and fell slightly, blood staining her colorful dress. Her heart, which had been pierced by the sword, was miraculously healing quickly. Her breathing was as calm as mist, and Lin had already activated his divine inspection technique and was able to see all of his enemies' weaknesses. The power seemed to be able to pierce through the entire world, and Lin was furious. Rumble. His lower abdomen was severely injured. Blood surged within his body, and his body flew back like a cannonball before the Vermilion Bird Princess disappeared again. The mist confusion spell was shattered, and the purple smoke dissipated into nothingness. The violent and terrifying energy transformed into a shockwave that destroyed the arena beyond recognition. The grand array also trembled incessantly. The red wings of the red high heels stretched for thousands of meters. They almost covered the entire gladiator arena. The overwhelming aura rippled through the air. The red high heels also unleashed the power of a high-tier immortal artifact. The wings on her shoes shone with a crimson light. With a flap, the power behind the shoes seemed to have doubled. You sure are cruel. The Vermilion Bird Princess fingers were already gripping onto the evil-slaying sword as blood trickled down the corners of her lips. Sizzle. The Vermilion Bird Princess didn't give a direct answer. Instead, a faint smile appeared on her face. Guess. And Lin could not hold it in any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. The Vermilion Bird Princess turned around, and a peculiar divine seal appeared on her forehead as an even more terrifying aura erupted forth. Not only in Lin, but even the 100,000 beasts outside the battlefield were finding it difficult to breathe, as if they were suffocating, and Lin's eyelids twitched. Instinctively, a white light flashed in his eyes. All of the high-rank immortal artifacts were extremely fearsome. It was quite clear that Lin had already earned the acknowledgement of some of the powerful beings in the bird tribe through his battles. She bent her legs and kicked Lin's lower abdomen. In the next instant, she disappeared on the spot. The Vermilion Bird Princess voice was pure and pleasant to the ear. Oi, oi, are you a fake soul formation stage cultivator? And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath as he felt the boundless divine might radiating from the Vermilion Bird Princess body. Pwah, this must be her trump card. What a powerful being she is. How could this be? The Vermilion Bird Princess lost? Boom, 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 my God! The Vermilion Bird Princess was able to slaughter mighty figures at the pinnacle of the return to void initial stage in her second form. Just how powerful is she in her third form? Wah. I don't care. Lin and killed the Vermilion Bird Princess in cold blood. I'm not going to forgive him. PFFF. A sharp screeching sound erupted. Spatial ripples surged through the air, and the Vermilion Bird Princess instantly appeared before him. Even Lin, who had activated his divine inspection technique and bullet time, found it difficult to track her attack trajectory. She was too close and too fast. Third form? The Vermilion Bird Princess has a third form. At this moment, Shui Zhantian was still cheering for Lin with idioms. All of the spectators were completely astonished by the scenes unfolding before their eyes. The spear chased after Lin relentlessly for over a kilometer, all the way to the edge of the protective spell formation. Only then did it run out of power and split up into two streaks of black and white silk, which revolved around the Vermilion Bird Princess body like spirit snakes. He had no choice. Under those circumstances, that was all he could do. Hee, I'm going to make you regret what you did to me. The Vermilion Bird Princess narrowed her eyes with a dangerous light flashing through them. Red Lotus Mantra. And Lin felt like his jaw had been shattered, and his entire body flew into the sky. The space around the blade projection had already crumbled, and the power of destruction and chaos formed a tornado that pulverized the earth below. It's over. Fist God Lin and finally managed to self-detonate, but the Vermilion Bird Princess still has a third form. Is this the end of his life? The Vermilion Bird Princess life force was fading away, and there was no turning back. Roar. I think Lin and is a good choice. Only a sissy would like the Vermilion Bird Princess. Real men should like tough guys like Linen. She tapped her foot lightly into the air, and her body slowly floated into the air. The 9 rainbows around her intertwined to form a pair of 9-colored wings of light, and the divine seal on her glabella exuded an extremely terrifying might, making her appear as if she were a goddess. How the F***CK could he tolerate this? Red Lotus. It was also at this moment that an extreme sense of danger suddenly engulfed his entire body. He knew that if he didn't retreat, his divine body really would be torn apart by the spiral spear. At the center of the battlefield, the Vermilion Bird Princess bent her left leg slightly, and her red high heels tapped the air a few times as red ripples surged through the entire battlefield. The Vermilion Bird Princess body shuddered, and she threw up a mouthful of blood. And Lin's divine flame bead could summon a divine flame golden dragon, and Su Xiaolan's dragon sparrow sword was imbued with the power of the true dragon and the phoenix. This ordinary-looking high heels was definitely no ordinary woman. Boom! Spatial ripples swept toward him like water, and he slashed his sword to the side without any hesitation. A black sword projection flashed through the air, tearing the earth several kilometers away. The Vermilion Bird Princess appeared before Lin again, and their eyes met. In the blink of an eye, he stopped his momentum with great difficulty and switched to a more comfortable position and angle. A piece of colorful cloth fell from the air, and the Vermilion Bird Princess appeared before Lin with an unhappy expression. Even though she had used an exceptional movement technique to evade Lin's sword strike, her beautiful dress was in tatters. You're the first opponent to force me to use my third form, and you're also the most powerful soul formation stage cultivator I've ever seen. In the spectator stands, the birds were shocked once again. Fake, it's all fake. The Vermilion Bird Princess is so powerful. How could she lose? And Lin didn't think that his attack would be evaded. At this moment, a terrifying force erupted from his chin, and he discovered that the Vermilion Bird Princess had already kicked his chin with overwhelming force. In the next instant, the Vermilion Bird Princess appeared behind Lin and kicked him in the spine. She unleashed a relentless barrage of kicks that were invisible to the naked eye, shocking everyone present. Her speed was extremely fast, and it was as if she were piercing through space. Red shock waves erupted from her kicks, which expanded like red lotus flowers, shattering space and causing the ground to tremor for over a kilometer. Boom! Another terrifying energy fluctuation erupted, and a pair of crimson wings suddenly sprouted from the vermilion bird princess high heels, which resonated with the surrounding space. Red lotus flowers danced in the air. The vermilion bird princess flashed to his side again before unleashing a kick toward the side of his waist. She knew that Enlin was a man who was going to CK the heavens, so there was no way he was going to lose here. An indescribable power suddenly erupted. It was as if all of the injuries that she had sustained from before had erupted at the same time, and it was as if all of the attacks that the vermilion bird princess had unleashed were to pave the way for this final attack. The black and white spiral spear struck Enlin's glabella, upon which dazzling black and white energy erupted forth. Chapter 932. In the eyes of the spectators, this was the vermilion bird princess' final attack. It was as if a gargantuan red lotus had fallen from the sky before crashing into Enlin's body. The red light pierced through his body and blood sprayed through the air. In the end, a terrifying explosion of energy swept through the entire arena. Red energy filled the entire space, pulverizing everything within it. Boom! The arena began to tremor violently, and cracks even began to appear. Close to 100,000 beasts were trembling in fear. If it weren't for the protection of the spell formation, all of them would have been pulverized by the shock waves of the battle. Oh my God, is this really a battle between creatures in the divine transformation realm? That's insane. Even the protective spell formation set up by our mythological beasts has been shattered. Even a battle between return to void stage mighty figures shouldn't be this insane, right? Those two really are monsters. I didn't think that I would be able to witness the vermilion bird princess in her third form. How is Fist God Linen? He's not dead, is he? After witnessing Enlin's power, all of the birds didn't dare to speculate anymore. All of them stared intently at the battlefield. The energy dissipated, and the vermilion bird princess stood in midair with her colorful wings spread open. Her features were a little pale, clearly having expended a lot of her energy to unleash that attack. There was not a single patch of flat ground on the arena, and there were cracks and rubble all over the place. The ground, which had been reinforced by the spell formation, had caved in like an upside-down pot lid. Enlin lay in the center of the crater and coughed up blood relentlessly as he stared intently at the woman in the sky. He's not dead. Fist God Lin and is not dead. All of the spectators let loose cries of surprise. The vermilion bird princess' brows perked up slightly. You sure are difficult to deal with. And Lin didn't say anything. He merely lay on the ground and stared up at the woman in the sky. After a while he said, "Little cat, you're naked." Everyone fell silent. Vermilion bird princess. All of the spectators. The fluttering red ribbon silently wrapped around her slender, fair legs, blocking Enlin's line of sight. The vermilion bird princess gritted her teeth as she glowered at the man on the ground. Is this why you're lying on the ground? Of course not. I'm just reminding you out of goodwill. Enlin said very seriously and then jumped up from the ground. The vermilion bird princess was fuming with rage, and she immediately pounced toward Enlin again. The divine talisman on her forehead flashed, and the space beneath her feet rippled. Then she disappeared on the spot. Enlin's aura skyrocketed, breaking through a certain limit. Origin energy of the netherworld. At the same time, streams of wind revolved around the evil-slaying sword as it slashed through the air toward a certain direction. It was so fast that it looked like a white line piercing through the sky. 6 strikes of the war god Wind Sword. The vermilion bird princess appeared before Enlin and kicked the black blade of the sword. Rumble. The collision of energy shook the surrounding void. After Enlin's body exploded, his strength increased tremendously. His sword slashes were also much more terrifying than before. The Vermilion Bird Princess felt like a boundless sword might was sweeping toward her with mountain-toppling force, and her kick was completely suppressed. "Break through!" And Lin let loose a clear cry, and the evil-slaying sword was unstoppable. An inky black sword projection flashed through the air and forced the Vermilion Bird Princess back. The Vermilion Bird Princess' heart jolted with shock. The man before her was still able to become even more powerful, and he was even vaguely superior to her. How was this possible? All of a sudden, heaven and earth dimmed, and the stars and moon disappeared as the world fell into boundless darkness. Even her consciousness was temporarily obscured. 6 strikes of the war god, Shadow Tiger. The Vermilion Bird Princess' expression shifted again, but her powerful battle instincts forced her to curl her wings around her petite body. Whoosh! A dark sword light appeared and landed on her colorful wall of wings. Light returned to heaven and earth, and a gash appeared on the colorful wings. The back of the Vermilion Bird Princess dress had also been torn open, and a gash had appeared on her pristine, white back. She had only just turned around to find that Lin had already retreated to over 1,000 feet away. At the same time, 99 white sword projections materialized in the air, and the entire space around them trembled and screeched. The space within a radius of over 1 kilometer had been transformed into a vacuum to make way for the white celestial swords. 6 strikes of the war god, 100 sword technique. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 99 white celestial swords transformed into streaks of light that hurtled toward the Vermilion Bird Princess with extremely fearsome sharpness. Each and every celestial sword was powerful enough to tear a return to Void Stage mighty figure in half. "Don't underestimate me!" The Vermilion Bird Princess roared as she kicked each and every celestial sword with her red boots, shattering the celestial swords with her devastating power. The sword projections lit up the night sky, and the red lotuses shone with dazzling light. The battle between the two of them was so intense that it felt as if they were going to tear the entire arena apart. Close to 100,000 bird tribe powerful beings were completely entranced, and they didn't even know what words they could use to describe this battle. Countless top-tier spell techniques, extraordinary battle techniques, unfathomable techniques, indescribably terrifying power. Every single scene was deeply engraved into their minds. It's so intense. It's so thrilling. This is definitely the most intense battle the arena has ever seen. That's right, this is indeed a battle of the highest caliber. I feel like I'm watching 2 top-tier Sun Tree War gods battle. Countless powerful beings were extremely excited. The golden tour guide, the yellow cow, also gaped with its mouth wide open as it stared blankly at the battle taking place. Never would it have thought that this ordinary-looking human would be this powerful. The main judge, the heavenly flame Vermilion Bird, was also extremely excited. The power displayed by the 2 contestants was even more powerful than it. One had to realize that it was an immortal beast at the pinnacle of the return to Void initial stage. What did it mean for 2 soul formation stage living beings to be more powerful than it? They were definitely supremely talented prodigies that were extremely difficult to find even on the entire Tai Chu continent. In my heart, both of them are Sun Tree war gods. The main judge, the heavenly flame Vermilion Bird, announced. Countless spectators were astonished upon hearing this. One had to realize that the southern heavenly wing nations, Sun Tree war gods, were already one of the most glorious titles in the world. For the main judge to say something like this was clearly a sign of his approval of the 2 contestants. They turned their eyes toward the arena, and they were all completely convinced by the power being displayed. "Ah, I'm going to make a breakthrough." Watching such a high-level battle and feeling the profound and exquisite realm, there was finally an expert of the bird clan who had an epiphany. It was a spirit-nurturing initial stage lark that had broken through its bottleneck and was about to progress to the spirit-nurturing intermediate stage, and it flapped its wings excitedly. All of the surrounding bird, tribe, powerful beings turned to look at the lark with envy on their faces. The vital energy vortex surged for several kilometers before surging toward the lark's body. However, it was as if all of the vital energy had been sucked dry, and all of it rushed toward the arena. What? The lark stared at the arena with a dumbstruck expression, and its mouth gaped open. Here, the vital energy of heaven and earth surged in a frenzy like a vortex. That's right, all of the vital energy seemed to be revolving with that spot as the center. All of the vital energy within a radius of several kilometers seemed to be under the command of a return to void stage mighty figure. The two people in the arena were even more insane. All of the vital energy within a radius of 5 kilometers revolved around them and transformed into countless fearsome spell techniques. The lark sucked in another mouthful of vital energy in an attempt to make a breakthrough, only to find that not only did no vital energy enter its body, the vital energy within its body was instead flowing toward the center of the arena. All of the surrounding bird, tribe, powerful beings turned to the lark with sympathetic expressions. The lark. Chapter 933. 10,000 mythological beasts stampeded over the lark's heart. It had finally attained enlightenment and was about to make a breakthrough, but it couldn't absorb any vital energy. What the hell was going on? Were those two freaks in the arena monsters? Even vital energy from so far away had been restricted. How the F*CK could it still play? The lark fled from the arena with tears streaming down its face. It had to hurry. If it couldn't absorb vital energy during its breakthrough, it would become the first spirit-nurturing stage cultivator in the entire village to fail its breakthrough due to a lack of vital energy of heaven and earth. It would become King joke if word got out. At the center of the battle, the vermilion bird princess shattered over 90 celestial swords with a kick before slapping a few more with her colorful wings. At this moment, the evil-slaying sword had already transformed into the 100th sword, which flew toward the vermilion bird princess. A brilliant white light flashed as the might of the sword surged into the heavens. In that instant, all of the spectators could hear the earth-shattering ringing of the sword. The blade of the sword was so sharp that even the powerful beings of the bird tribe felt a sharp pain shoot through their bodies. The vermilion bird princess let loose a delicate cry as the divine symbol on her forehead unleashed a peerless divine might. Her red high heels slashed through the air in a crimson trajectory as she unleashed all of her power to kick the final sword strike. Boom! A series of inky black cracks appeared in the air as red and white energy intertwined in a frenzy. The sword intent continued onward with unstoppable might and managed to suppress the red light. The vermilion bird princess screamed as her entire body was blasted into the ground by the sword projection of the evil-slaying sword. The white light crashed into the ground with boundless sharpness, tearing a massive fissure in the ground and slicing the entire arena in half. The vermilion bird princess stood up from the rubble with a disheveled expression and raised her head to discover that Enlin was holding a high-rank spirit sword in his hand. The high-rank spirit sword then shattered, and a rain of cherry blossoms fell from the sky, creating a breathtaking sight to behold. 6 strikes of the war god. 4th technique, sword burial. In order to save his own life, Enlin had swapped out all of the high-rank spirit tools in his storage ring for spirit swords. He had done all of this to save his own life. The vermilion bird princess was the most terrifying opponent he had ever faced, and he was using all of his power to defeat her. The vermilion bird princess' eyes widened as she looked up at the cherry blossoms falling from the sky. She had yet to catch her breath, and there was a sobbing sound in her voice. "Why are you still here?" And Lin chuckled. "I don't have much time left. Since you're so cute, I'll give you the full set of 6 strikes of the war god. How about it?" Are you touched? I don't dare to move." The vermilion bird princess pouted as she looked up at Enlin with an aggrieved expression. Tears shimmered in her big, bright eyes as she spoke in a feeble voice. "I've been bullied to this extent by you. Can't you just forgive me?" And Lin's heart fluttered slightly at the sight of the vermilion bird princess' pitiful expression before coming to his senses and flared up with rage. "You're trying to fool me again? Take this, Demonis. Take my pay-to-win move. Cherry Rain's spiritual sword's funeral song." He pointed a finger at the vermilion bird princess from afar, and boundless light instantly erupted from the pink shard. An immortal tree appeared behind Enlin as a powerful, yet ethereal power converged at his fingertip. The cherry blossoms in the sky swirled before converging in front of Enlin to form a transparent pink blade projection. At the same time, the power of the moon in the sky was drawn upon to make the pink long sword even more fearsome. When he was at the soul formation intermediate stage, his sword burial was able to wound the demonic baby, which was at the pseudo-void pinnacle stage. Now that he was at the soul formation final stage, how powerful would his sword burial be? Everything in heaven and earth dimmed upon the emergence of the pink sword. It was as if the cherry blossoms in the night sky had become even more dazzling than the stars and the moon. The transparent blade projection and the power imbued within it were nowhere near the grandeur of a trump card. However, the vermilion bird princess expression had become unprecedentedly grave. A sense of peril and death engulfed her entire body. This was a sword imbued with extremely potent killing intent. Even though the spectators were separated by the spell formation, they still felt as if a sword had been pressed against their hearts, and they felt as if their lives were going to end in the next second. Many of the birds with weaker cultivation bases had already fainted from fright. Even the more powerful living beings stared at the pink long sword in silence, not even daring to breathe too loudly. The vermilion bird princess body trembled slightly, and the blood in her body seemed to have congealed by the omnipresent killing intent. "Linen, I've never been so excited and trembling before. Your presence here is the reason why I came to the arena." The vermilion bird princess breathing accelerated, but her eyes were extremely bright as she stared intently at Enlin in the sky. The colorful wings on her back dissipated and transformed back into 9 colorful streamers before forming a 9-colored divine sword in her hand. "Oh, you're not going to kick me with your high heels anymore?" And Lin spoke in a slow voice as he continued to accumulate power, and the pink long sword slowly became transparent. "Humph, you're so shameless. My feet are hurting from your kicks, so I'll just kill you with my sword." The vermilion bird princess voice was ethereal as she looked at Enlin with a meaningful gaze before disappearing on the spot. And Lin's expression shifted. He didn't think that the vermilion bird princess would choose to attack first. Was she not afraid of death? The cherry blossom immortal tree behind him disappeared, and the power of the pink sword reached its peak. At this moment, the vermilion bird princess had already appeared in front of Enlin. And Lin pointed a finger at the vermilion bird princess without any hesitation, and the pink sword projection was imbued with killing intent that froze space itself as it stabbed toward the vermilion bird princess heart. A determined expression appeared on the vermilion bird princess face as she stabbed her 9-colored divine sword toward Enlin's heart. The terrifying might of her sword made the spell formation tremor violently before the sword had even been unleashed. And Lin's expression shifted drastically. Was this woman trying to King trade her life for his? That was way too insane. However, he had the body of the war god, so his defenses were not going to be broken so easily. She was going to risk her life against him. The vermilion bird princess was going to die for sure. Thus, neither of them took evasive measures, and both of them stabbed their swords toward each other's hearts without any fear of death. The pink sword projection left a faint pink trajectory in the air before tearing through the vermilion bird princess dress and puncturing her chest, upon which blood gushed forth. The pink sword blade was unstoppable. Even the formation that the divine beasts had set up to stabilize the arena was torn apart. A pink trail was drawn in the night sky and extended to infinity. The power of the vermilion bird princess, nine-colored divine sword converged toward a single point before clashing within Lin's divine body, upon which dazzling light erupted, as if it were a gorgeous flower blooming in the night sky. This was an attack comparable to that of a return to void final stage mighty figure, but it was unable to break through in Lin's divine body in a short time, and Lin was ecstatic upon seeing this. The blood gushing forth from the vermilion bird princess heart stained the nine-colored divine sword before fusing into the blade, thereby elevating the power of the sword drastically. A chill ran down in Lin's spine. Was she sacrificing her blood to the sword? Could it be that this was all part of her plan? In order to make him lower his guard and think that he was going to win by exchanging a life for a life, she had saved this killing intent for the very end. A faint smile appeared on the vermilion bird princess face, and her eyes narrowed like a cat extending its claws. "Let's die together." Splat! The nine-colored divine sword punctured his body, and blood gushed forth again. And Lin's eyes widened as he stared blankly at his punctured heart. Chapter 934. Never would Lin have thought that his heart would be punctured, just like that. Indescribable pain swept through his entire body, and death was like a vortex that sucked at his entire being, as if it was trying to take everything away from him. Close to 100,000 spectators all let loose cries of surprise. They had thought that one of them would emerge victorious in the end, but they didn't think that the two of them would stab each other's hearts at the same time. The vermilion bird princess pulled out the nine-colored divine sword with great difficulty, and her body swayed unsteadily as she threw up another mouthful of blood. "Hey, little tabby cat!" "Ugh, your blood has dirted my clothes," a disgruntled and indistinct voice suddenly sounded. The vermilion bird princess immediately turned toward the man before her with astonishment on her face, and Lin had one hand clasped over his heart while stuffing medicine into his mouth with the other. A 7th-grade immortal pill, spirit regeneration pill, which had extremely potent regenerative properties. 2 7th-grade immortal fruits, blood dragon fruits, which were super nourishing fruits. He stuffed all of the immortal fruits and immortal pills that could regenerate injuries into his mouth as he activated his second-stage evergreen technique with all his might. The vermilion bird princess voice trembled. Why aren't you dead yet? Are soul formation stage cultivators this hard to kill? Fake. You must be a fake." And Lin chuckled coldly. "You're still alive, aren't you? I've never seen AF * King soul formation stage living being who can take a 500,000 spirit stone attack head-on without dying. You're way too powerful." He stuffed a few more high-rank spirit pills into his mouth as he spoke. The vermilion bird princess was about to have a mental breakdown, and she pointed a finger at Lin as she yelled, You're still taking pills. This isn't fair. You can take pills too. No one's stopping you." And Lin rolled his eyes. With the help of the immortal pills, immortal fruits, and spiritual pills, as well as the power of the second stage of the evergreen technique, his pierced heart rapidly recovered. Clearly, he was no longer in mortal danger. The vermilion bird princess gripped onto her bleeding, wound with tears on the verge of flowing. "I didn't bring any medicine." How could she have imagined that she would encounter a freak like Lin? She could even torture return to void stage immortal beasts with ease. And Lin smiled and said, "I can give you medicine." The vermilion bird princess faltered slightly upon hearing this before tears began to well up in her eyes. "Really? Big brother Lin, you really are a good person. He is a true warrior who disdains using underhanded means to win. But I have a condition." And Lin pointed to the array that had been pierced by his burial sword. "The array has been destroyed. I'll give you the pill. Admit defeat and leave this place." The formation was there to prevent the warriors from escaping, so that they could fight to the death. As long as little Kay escaped from the formation, no one would be able to stop her. In this way, she would be able to live, and Lin would have an easier time winning. Little Kay looked deeply into Lin's eyes when she heard this. Her lips curled into a faint smile as she said, I can't believe that you actually know how to have tender and protective feelings for the fairer sex. It's respecting the elderly and cherishing the young. And Lin corrected as he took a glance at little Kay's petite and slender body, upon which he nodded silently. The vermilion bird princess was enraged, and her blood flowed even more quickly. In contrast, Lin's injuries were almost completely healed, and Lin's brows furrowed. Oi, you're really about to die. Aren't you going to try and save me? The vermilion bird princess paused momentarily before shaking her head with a serious expression. No, thank you for your kind intentions. I'm only one step away. This is my final battle, and I hope to achieve 100 consecutive victories today. Setting aside the fact that you have no chance of beating me, even if you do, are you going to take the title of champion and the Sun Tree war god with you to the grave? And Lin was perplexed. The vermilion bird princess glared at Lin. What do you mean I have no chance of beating you? And Lin thought to himself, you only have a sliver of blood left, and I'm at full strength. How could I lose? Cut the crap. You won't understand my desire to fight for glory, to never surrender, and to die with no regrets. This is the final battle. If we don't start now, I'm going to die. Hurry up. The vermilion bird princess urged with an impatient expression. At the same time, a powerful aura erupted from her body as her divine seal unleashed a dazzling divine light that blasted upon her body, elevating her aura over time. And Lin stared speechlessly at the young woman who was staking everything she had. What was the point? Why did he have to do this? Was he sick? The vermilion bird princess' colorful dress danced in the wind as she wielded her 9-colored divine sword, which radiated divine light in all directions. A dazzling divine light pierced through the night sky, as if it were a lamp on the sun tree. At that moment, it was as if she were the only goddess in this world, taking away all of the light in this world. Lin, and this will be my final sword strike. The winner will definitely be me. The vermilion bird princess was bathed in divine light, and her colorful dress had been stained red. A peculiar flush appeared on her face, as if she was expending the last of her life force. All the spectators were stunned, speechless by the woman in this state. The scene in front of them would perhaps forever be imprinted in their minds, regardless of whether she won or lost. She would forever be a war god in their hearts. And Lin was struck by a sense of awe and veneration as he looked at the young woman in her current state. He then silently pulled out his chaotic alloy brick. The war god of the sun tree will not lose. A pleasant voice sounded. The war god of the celestial court will not lose either. And Lin murmured to himself. The vermilion bird princess had ignited her life force to unleash the most powerful attack she had ever unleashed. She wielded her 9-colored divine sword and slashed it down toward Lin. And Lin raised his black brick and positioned it in front of him. The rainbow sword projection lit up the entire night sky, creating a dreamy and beautiful scene. On the arena, the 9-colored sword projection sliced through the protective formation, as well as the entire arena and the 6th level. Over 10,000 spectators were struck by the terrifying sword projection, and their bodies were completely engulfed by the boundless rainbow light. This was a power that struck fear into everyone's heart. This was a power that could destroy all living beings. All of the living beings on the 5th level instantly erupted into a massive commotion upon seeing the 6th level being torn apart by the divine light. As for the living beings on the 6th level, most of them were spectating from the arena, and they were clearly all dumbstruck. After unleashing that earth-shattering sword strike, the vermilion bird princess aura finally began to wane. "Did I win?" she murmured to herself as she looked toward a certain direction outside the arena. Some of the startled birds began to flee in all directions. There were also many powerful beings who were as stable as old dogs who followed the vermilion bird princess' gaze toward that direction. That sword strike had sliced through everything, but there was a massive black brick that was completely unscathed at the end of the inky black fissure. The black brick wriggled before being lifted by a white-robed man. "Phew! It crushed me," and Lin grumbled as he stood up in a disheveled manner. How could this be? The vermilion bird princess features were deathly pale, and her body trembled as blood flowed from the corners of her lips. "I lost!" and Lin turned to the vermilion bird princess and shook his head with a forlorn sigh. "Are you an idiot, little cat? I was clearly the one who lost. According to the rules of the arena, an opponent who is knocked out of the arena is also judged to have lost." He raised his head with a smile. "So, little cat, you won." The vermilion bird princess body trembled as she murmured to herself, "I won." "That's right. Congratulations on your 100th consecutive victory." And Lin gave her a thumbs up. "Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess, I won." The vermilion bird princess was still repeating the same words. "Am I the real Sun Tree War God now?" The 9-colored ribbon gradually dimmed, as if her life had come to an end. At this moment, all of the living beings on the arena yelled the same thing. "Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess. Sun Tree War God, Vermilion Bird Princess." Their voices converged into a massive wave that soared into the heavens. They were yelling this title from the bottom of their hearts. The Vermilion Bird Princess was worthy of this title. 2 streams of tears flowed down the Vermilion Bird Princess' cheeks as she looked at Enlin in the distance, and a vibrant smile suddenly appeared on her face. Her smile was like a blooming flower in the night sky, beautiful and pure, and heaven and earth seemed to pale in comparison. "Lin, and thank you." The vermilion bird princess body dissipated into specks of colorful light, but her heavenly voice still lingered in Enlin's ears. Chapter 935. The vermilion bird princess had died, and all of the spectators fell into a mournful atmosphere. They really loved the vermilion bird princess. She was an extremely powerful and adorable girl who interacted with the spectators, and she was already the most dazzling presence in the entire arena. Her charisma had even surpassed that of any of the past Sun Tree war gods. However, the vermilion bird princess had left just like that. She had expended her last bit of light and warmth in the arena before completely disappearing from their lives. The host wiped the tears from his eyes as he tried his best to calm the grief in his heart. He was actually a huge fan of the vermilion bird princess, and he would always be extremely excited whenever the vermilion bird princess participated in a match. He would also be extremely proud to see this alluring young woman walk toward the pinnacle. However, who would have thought that tonight would be the vermilion bird princess final battle? And Lin also sighed with emotion. He wanted to save the vermilion bird princess. After all, there was a soul formation stage living being in this world that was just as bad *SS as he was, and he felt like he had found a soulmate. However, the vermilion bird princess would rather die in battle than admit defeat, and Lin wasn't going to go easy on her either. The vermilion bird princess was extremely proud, and she wouldn't allow Lin to do this. Rest in peace, vermilion bird princess. And Lin heaved a faint sigh before turning to leave the arena. "Mr. Lin, and please wait." The heavenly flame vermilion bird's voice suddenly sounded at this moment, and Lin's footsteps faltered upon hearing this, and he turned to the vermilion bird with a smile. "What is it? You're not going to let me go, are you?" The rule of the arena was that only the champion could leave alive. As the loser, it wasn't impossible for Lin to be forced to stay here. However, he wasn't scared. As long as the mythological beast didn't appear, he had a way to escape. "Mr. Lin, and you've misunderstood." The heavenly flame vermilion bird explained in a panicked voice. Even though the vermilion bird princess knocked you out of the arena. You were the last person standing. After some discussion, we've decided to give you the glory that you deserve. We've decided that you and the Vermilion Bird Princess will be the champions of the arena today." And Lynn was dumbfounded. Tied for first place? Was that even possible? The MC's impassioned voice sounded again. "Now let us welcome Fist God Lynn and the Vermilion Bird Princess to the stage." Tens of thousands of spectators erupted into cheers and applause once again upon hearing this. Countless powerful beings from the bird tribe chanted the name Fist God and Lynn. This was the glory that Lynn had earned through his own strength, and Lynn's words had also improved their impression of him. After all, he was the one who had announced that the Vermilion Bird Princess was going to win first place, and he had also announced the rules of the other arenas before conceding defeat. All of the birds knew that the winner of the Sun Tree Arena would be the one who remained standing until the very end, so there was no need for Lynn to say such things. However, Lynn had done so. Such an upright and powerful person. Why couldn't he have the glory of being the champion? And Lynn raised the championship trophy of the Sun Tree Arena and smiled at the cheers and roars of the tens of thousands of spectators. He knew that the title of Fist God Lynn would spread throughout the entire southern Heavenly Wing Nation as a result of this battle. The main judge, the Heavenly Flame Vermilion Bird, personally handed a white badge to Lynn with a smile. "Mighty warrior of the arena, Lynn N, our Sun Tree welcomes you to the 7th level as a guest." And Lynn's eyes lit up. This was his true goal. "Thank you, Senior Heavenly Flame. I'll be going to the 7th level tomorrow." And Lynn accepted the badge with a calm expression. The Heavenly Flame Vermilion Bird also flapped its wings with a smile to express its welcome. The battle at the Sun Tree Arena drew to a close, but the massive impact of that battle was only just beginning to ferment. The impact of that legendary battle was only just beginning, and Lynn reunited with Shuezhantian and the Yellow Cow. After witnessing that earth-shattering battle, the Yellow Cow stared at Lynn with reverence and fervor in its eyes, and it almost impulsively leaned into Lynn's chest. "Master, that battle of yours was truly earth-shattering and earth-shattering. I couldn't stop watching it." Shuezhantian leaned against Lynn's chest with a blissful expression, and Lynn rubbed Snowball in his arms and heaved a faint sigh. "What a pity. It wasn't easy for me to find an opponent who could fight me to my heart's content." Shuezhantian knew who he was talking about, and he also sighed with emotion. "It's easy to find someone who understands you. Master and her are truly destined to be together. I'll be sure to report this to Xiaolan and ask her to comfort you." And Lynn pinched Shuezhantian with rage. "Do you want to die?" Shuezhantian screeched. "Please spare me, Master. I was the one who said the wrong thing. I'll definitely repent and turn over a new leaf." The Yellow Cow stared speechlessly at the quarreling man and beast, unable to say anything. The next morning, all of the living beings on the Sun Tree were made aware of what had happened on the 6th level. That was an earth-shattering battle between two soul formation stage powerful beings, and it was an earth-shattering battle that far exceeded that of most return to void stage mighty figures. The statue of the 11th Sun Tree War God stood atop the palace of the War God. The title of War God Vermilion Bird Princess spread throughout the entire southern Heavenly Wing Nation. Aside from that, Fist God Lin's reputation also spread like wildfire. The powerful being who had fought the Sun Tree War God to a draw became a hot topic for all living beings. And Lynn didn't really care much about this, and he followed the Yellow Cow to the passageway leading to the 7th level with his white badge in hand. The way to the 7th level was no longer to use a hovering energy board. Instead, it was a type of flying bubble that could envelop a target and allow them to float directly to the 7th level. The 7th level was very mysterious. It was enshrouded in a peculiar mist that made it impossible to see what was going on inside. But apparently it was possible to see what was going on outside from inside. The two soul formation stage vermilion bird tribe soul beasts bowed with smiles on their faces upon seeing Enlin. Welcome, brave warrior Lin En. The gate to the 7th level will be opened for you. Shui Zhantian was quite elated to see the arrogant vermilion bird tribe members being so polite to him, and he couldn't help but hum a Chinese idiom. And Lin nodded lightly. He had earned this respect through his power, so he made his way over to them. I'm sorry, but only the champion of the arena can enter the 7th level. The vermilion bird extended its wings to stop the yellow cow and Shui Zhantian. A disappointed expression appeared on the yellow cow's face. He knew this would happen, but he was still a little disappointed. Shui Zhantian was enraged by Enlin's words and was just about to let loose a torrent of abuse when a thought suddenly occurred to him. He opened his big, round eyes and flapped his little wings as he spoke in an extremely crisp, mellow voice. Big brother vermilion bird, I'm Fist God Lin En's beast pet. I'm a very obedient and won't cause trouble. A faint blush appeared on his snowball-like body as he spoke, and he stared at the two vermilion birds with his big blue eyes. He was super adorable. I wouldn't let you go even if you were the bacteria on Lin En's body, let alone a beast pet like you. The vermilion bird was unmoved. The other vermilion bird unleashed flames to burn away the bacteria on Enlin's body. And Lin was shocked. Was it really that strict? Shui Zhantian gritted his teeth with an expression of indignation. If he couldn't accompany Enlin, how was he supposed to take photos of Enlin's crimes? How detestable! Shui Zhantian and the yellow cow had no choice but to remain where they were. And Lin was enshrouded within a huge bubble as he slowly flew toward the 7th level. He looked up at the white mist with scorching curiosity in his eyes. He was finally here. What was on the 7th level? Chapter 936. And Lin rode on the transparent bubble and passed through layers of mist to see a series of white, jade-like leaves rustling in the wind. A series of dazzling white tree branches intertwined with one another to form a bird's nest. It was a warm and natural place with a holy aura emanating from its simplicity. There were a series of bird nests of different sizes on the continent, upon which there were many powerful vermilion birds with powerful auras. All of them were releasing flames of all different colors, creating an extremely beautiful sight to behold. Auspicious chi of all different colors rose up from the ground, making this place feel like a dreamy realm. There seemed to be no weaklings among the vermilion bird tribe living here. Even the weakest adult vermilion birds were at the soul formation stage, and the little vermilion birds were also very intelligent and were playing around with one another. The pleasant chirping of birds reverberated throughout the continent. This was most likely the paradise of the vermilion bird tribe. However, there were also some birds that he couldn't name. For example, there was a 4-winged bird with golden spikes all over its body. There was also a water bird with a smooth body that lay on the ground like a lake. In any case, they all looked very awesome. The bubble carried Enlin onto a patch of empty ground. Welcome to the 7th level of the Sun Tree, warrior of the arena. A black vermilion bird flew toward Enlin with a smile on its face. A black light flashed past, and the vermilion bird took on the form of a human. A tall and muscular man in black made his way over and shook hands with Enlin in an enthusiastic manner. Welcome, Fist God Enlin. My name is Heitinga, and I am the supervisor responsible for receiving visitors. Hello, Mr. Heitinga. It is my honor to be able to visit the 7th level of the Sun Tree. And Lin was a little surprised to see such an enthusiastic vermilion bird, but he still responded in a polite manner. Heitinga smiled. It's not an honor. The 7th level is actually quite ordinary. The vital energy here is a little richer. The spiritual energy of heaven and earth is a little more concentrated. The scenery is a little better, and the yang attribute of the sun tree is a little more concentrated. There really isn't anything special about this level. And Lin's lips twitched slightly. Hey, Tinga continued. The reason why this level is isolated from the outside world is that our vermilion bird tribe wants a place where we can cultivate in peace. I hope you can keep everything that has happened here a secret, Mr. Lin. And Lin immediately nodded. Don't worry, I've always been a tight-lipped person, and I definitely won't tell anyone. Xiaolan wasn't an outsider. Dabai, Tina, Xiaotian, of course, and Xiao Zhe Waren of the Vermilion Bird. A satisfied smile appeared on He Tinga's face. Please come with me, Mr. Lin, and I'll introduce this place to you, and I guarantee that you'll benefit greatly from it. Of He Tinga's voice. The energy was extremely rich here, of the qi. Most importantly, the yang attribute energy here was especially rich. Cultivating yang attribute cultivation techniques here would yield twice the results with half the effort. Along, he encountered many of birds and was like another. His posture was elegant, and his temperament was noble and inviolable. He was like a noble among birds. These creatures on the 7th floor all had their own pride. They walked with their heads held high and their chests puffed out. Even when facing the outsider and Lin, they were disdainful. Why was there such a big difference in their attitudes? And Lin silently looked at the warm and considerate He Tinga beside him, and he couldn't help but recall the words of the bird tribe representative in charge of registration at the arena. Hide your disgust and disdain toward you. We are professionals. He was starting to doubt whether the burly man's attitude towards him was sincere or not. However, it didn't matter to him whether it was sincere or not. In any case, he didn't really come to visit the 7th floor. Not long after, they arrived at an area densely covered with golden ruins and surrounded by small mountains. A scorching expression appeared on He Tinga's face. This place is known as the mythological beast Tao observation area. The 5 mighty mythological beasts of our sun tree have all left a portion of their power here to bestow upon those who are fated with them. Mr. Lin En, as the champion of the arena, you have a chance to receive the approval of the mythological beasts. He pointed at 5 majestic white statues of different shapes and sizes before introducing them one by one. This is the ruler of our Vermilion Bird tribe, the most powerful being in the southern heavenly wing nation, the eternal sun god. And Lin looked up to discover that the eternal sun god statue was an extremely handsome vermilion bird. At this moment, there were already 12 vermilion birds in the mythological beast Tao observation area who had turned toward Lin with undisguised disdain, disgust in their eyes. That's right, there were only 12 vermilion birds in the mythological beast Tao observation area, and all of them were glaring at Lin. And Lin turned toward He Tinga with a smile. Your vermilion bird tribe, sure, is friendly. They're glaring at me as soon as I arrive. An awkward smile appeared on He Tinga's face. It's all right. They're just too straightforward and aren't as reserved as I am. And Lin turned to the burly man beside him with an astonished expression. Straightforward? Reserved? As expected, this vermilion bird was the same type of bird as them. He Tinga seemed to have realized that he had let the cat out of the bag, and he coughed lightly before explaining. We're actually not targeting you. We treat all other living beings the same way. After all, the vermilion bird is a mighty being, and only living beings with its bloodline are worthy of respect. And Lin chuckled. Racial discrimination. You can think of it as racial discrimination against all living beings on the entire continent. He Tinga said with difficulty, unless there's a particularly dazzling and powerful living being that can truly earn our respect. And Lin, He Tinga was a little embarrassed. Don't worry, Mr. Lin. I'm a professional at hiding my disgust toward you. I won't make you feel even the slightest bit uncomfortable. And Lin's chest constricted, and he roared in his heart. You're already making me feel uncomfortable. He Tinga became even more embarrassed upon seeing Lin's expression. and he pointed to another statue before forcefully changing the topic. This is the statue of the mythological beast Kuin. Even though it has already traveled through countless realms, its name is still renowned across the entire continent. And Lin nodded upon hearing this. There was a famous line in the poem. There is a fish in the northern ocean known as the Kuin. The Kuin is so big that it cannot be stewed in a single pot. The Kuin had two forms. One was the fish form, which could swallow all fishes and prawns in one gulp. The other was the Pung form, which could roam as high as the heavens and as vast as the seas. Hei Tinga then pointed to another statue. This is the statue of the nine-colored divine vermilion bird, and it resides on the divine sun tree. As long as it exists, no one on the entire continent would dare to offend our southern, heavenly winged nation. A proud expression appeared on Hei Tinga's face at the mention of the nine-colored divine vermilion bird. It was clearly extremely respectful toward this mythological beast. And Lin's expression also became serious. He had to consider the threat posed by this mythological beast if he wanted to do that. There were 3 mythological beasts on the sun tree, but only the 9-colored divine vermilion bird was currently residing on the sun tree. The statue of the 9-colored divine vermilion bird was extremely intricate, and it was in the form of a massive peacock with its tail spread open. Its posture was graceful, and its eyes were extremely bright and piercing. And Lin asked in a quiet voice, "This 9-colored divine vermilion bird looks very gentle. Is it also very gentle and easy to talk to?" "Ha ha ha. You must be joking, Mr. Lin." Hei Tinga chortled with glee as he patted Lin's shoulder. "Not taking into account other matters, but our divine vermilion bird tribe is renowned for our fiery temper. We don't bother with trifles, but if we make a big mistake, even the mighty vermilion bird tribe will be swallowed whole." Cold sweat poured down Lin's face. Chapter 937. If he had kissed the guardian of the sun god, would that be a trivial matter? This was a very important question, and Lin felt like the pressure was building up again. Hei Tinga pointed to a statue before continuing his introduction. "This senior is one of the most ancient mythological beasts of our tribe. Her name is the undying divine vermilion bird, but it's a pity that she fell to the purple star Dao vanquishing formation, Psi." And Lin repressed the urge to grumble as he forced a look of sorrow and regret onto his face. The undying divine vermilion bird had been killed, so how could he still use this title? Wouldn't he feel ashamed? Hei Tinga reminisced for a moment before pointing to the final statue. "This is a very powerful mythological beast of our tribe. She is a phoenix that inherited the bloodline of the vermilion bird, and her name is the mutant blood phoenix. Unfortunately, due to some unknown reason, this senior unfortunately fell somewhere." And Lin drew a sharp intake of breath as he looked at the final statue. He was very familiar with this mythological beast. Fate was a very strange thing sometimes. And Lin looked at the mutant blood phoenix, and a sense of familiarity welled up in his heart as he sighed with emotion. Hei Tinga sighed with emotion at the sight of Lin's expression. "Sigh. Even powerful mythological beasts can fall at some point. I wonder who killed the senior and whether she received a proper burial." And Lin knew a little about the mutant blood phoenix, and he offered words of consolation. "Don't worry, Senior Mutant Blood Phoenix is so powerful and exceptional that she will live on even after her death." That's right, he would inherit the power of the Mutant Blood Phoenix and continue to flourish. As for a proper burial, there was no need for Hei Tinga to worry about. Its flesh and blood had already been burned by Lin and Su Xiaolan, and its bones had been cut off by Lin to be preserved in his storage ring. "Brother Lin, you're absolutely right. We will inherit its spirit and power. Senior Mutant Blood Phoenix may have died, but it is still alive." Hei Tinga spoke with a scorching light in his eyes, and Lin's lips twitched upon hearing this. If Hei Tinga knew what he had done to the Mutant Blood Phoenix, would he explode on the spot? That's all for the introductions of the 5 mighty mythological beasts of the Sun Tree. Now, you have a chance to obtain the recognition of the power they left behind here. This is the privilege of the champion of the arena. Which one would you like to start with, Mr. Lin? Heitinga asked with a smile, and Lin thought about it for a moment before deciding to follow Heitinga's introductions. The two of them arrived in front of the eternal sun god. There were 3 powerful beings from the vermilion bird race beside him, who were studying the power left behind by the eternal sun god. They looked at Enlin with disdain. Humph! A creature from the lower realm wants to gain the recognition of our Lord Eternal Sun God? What wishful thinking! That's right. How dare a weakling with a lowly bloodline dream of winning the favor of our Sun Tree Divine Beast? What a joke! Yet, there's always someone vying for this opportunity. The last time a creature received the favor of a divine beast was 2 years ago, right? That's right. Hee, it's still a pitiful legacy light. I heard that this Lin and is quite powerful. Is he going to be a little more powerful? So what if he's powerful? It's not like he'll be able to take all of the inheritance left behind by the mythological beast. Besides, the inheritance doesn't depend on power. Instead, it depends on one's bloodline and luck. We've been studying the statue for so long, and we've only received a few inheritances. All of the powerful beings from the vermilion bird tribe conversed with one another, completely disregarding Enlin's feelings. Enlin wore a smile on his face, but he was cursing like crazy in his heart. Were all these birds so arrogant nowadays? He really wanted to press these talkative birds into the ground and give them a good beating. Of the 12 vermilion birds present, only 2 were returned to void stage immortal beasts, while the rest were all soul formation stage soul beasts. With his power, he could easily kill all of these noobs on his own. Sigh. It was a pity that this was the divine sun tree. Mr. Heitinga, what should I do? And Lin asked. All you need to do is release your blood essence onto the statue of the mythological beast, then answer a random question from the mythological beast. After that, everything will be decided by the mythological beast. If you're extremely lucky and receive the mythological beast's favor, perhaps you'll be able to receive some of its inheritance. Heitinga explained. He was describing Enlin as lucky, which meant that he didn't think that Enlin would be able to receive the mythological beast's approval through other means. The chances of that happening were extremely slim. One had to realize that he was a mighty mythological beast at the soul formation pinnacle stage and possessed a relatively pure vermilion bird bloodline. Even so, he hadn't received a single inheritance here. And Lin nodded upon hearing this before making his way over to the statue and releasing a drop of blood essence. The reddish-golden blood essence shimmered under the sunlight as bursts of terrifying energy, fluctuations proliferated outward. For some reason, all of the vermilion birds were struck by a sense of fear when they saw the drop of blood essence. What's going on? I don't know. This human looks like he's no ordinary human. He's only a little powerful. What's the point of intimidating us with his aura? That's right, we possess the vermilion bird bloodline. Even if he's more powerful than us, we're still more noble than him. That's right, this was the overconfidence of the vermilion bird tribe. Even if you're more powerful than me, I'm still more noble than you. And Lin really wanted to eat the vermilion bird roast wings after hearing these discussions. The drop of blood essence was quickly absorbed by the eternal sun god statue. All of the vermilion bird's expressions shifted drastically. It's been sucked in. Is the eternal sun god not disgusted by this human's blood? Unbelievable. Just as all of the spectating birds were discussing spiritedly, a voice suddenly sounded from the eternal sun god statue. May I ask, which came first, the bird or the egg? And Lin was dumbstruck upon hearing this. All of the vermilion bird tribe living beings were even more shocked. That's one of the most profound questions in our tribe. It's over. Even the most brilliant sage of our tribe can't answer this question. So how can this human answer it? And Lin paused for a few seconds. He felt like the key to this philosophical question wasn't whether the bird or the egg came first, but rather, he spoke in a loud voice with a smile on his face, the vermilion bird came first and then the heavens. Everything that the bird tribe possesses stems from the holy beast, vermilion bird. Everyone suddenly fell silent. Hei Tinga's mouth gaped open. All of the vermilion birds were dumbstruck. This human really knew how to King talk. Boom! The stone statue tremored violently. Good. An authoritative voice sounded from afar. Immediately afterward, 2 dazzling beams of golden light shot forth from the eternal sun god's eyes before landing on Lin's glabella. It's here. It's the light of inheritance. A vermilion bird screeched. My God, how could the light of this inheritance be so powerful? Another vermilion bird exclaimed in shock. One had to realize that normally, even if there was an inheritance, it would only be a small wisp of golden light. There was no way a pillar of light would appear. This is the core inheritance of the eternal sun god. A return to void stage, vermilion bird murmured. All of the vermilion birds fell into a daze upon hearing this, as they stared blankly at the man whose glabella had been struck by the golden light. Chapter 938. The golden light landed on Lin's forehead, and a huge amount of information began to flow in. Fire God mode. Activate 100% of the fire force in the body and convert it into kinetic energy and heat energy for the body, becoming a true fire god of war. The true meaning of the move, the mental cultivation method, and the Tao realm all surged into Lin's mind. When the light disappeared, Lin's eyes lit up, and he couldn't help but smile. He bowed to the statue of the god of the day to show his thanks. This technique was extremely powerful and practical. It could be said that it was an unexpected reward from their trip to the sun tree. Hei Tinga stared at Lin in astonishment as his lips trembled. Mr. Lin, what inheritance did you receive? A move called Vulcan mode, and Lin didn't mind hiding this. After all, their boss was still alive. The eternal sun god's descendants would probably find out what kind of inheritance they had given. It's the fire god mode. Hey, Tinga exclaimed. All of the other vermilion bird living beings were also looking at Lin with fanatical and envious expressions. Vulcan mode is the eternal sun god's famous move. My God, this is the core inheritance, and it was actually obtained by a human. Oh my God, I can't accept this. Why was the eternal sun god's most powerful inheritance stolen by a human? Even if he's a very nice guy, it shouldn't have happened. Some vermilion birds pounded their chests and stomped their feet. Some more expressions of indignation, and some were so dejected that tears streamed down their faces. And Lin was suddenly struck by a sense of exhilaration as he looked at their expressions. Aya, this fire god mode seemed to be okay. I hope I can use it in the future. Thank you for your leader's selfless care for me. I and Lin will remember it. And Lin chuckled. All of the vermilion birds gritted their teeth. Mr. Heitinga, shall we go to the mythological beast Kuinpeng now? And Lin smiled. Very well, fellow Taoist Lin, and Heitinga looked at Lin with a complex expression. But he didn't say anything as he led him to the statue of the Kuinpeng mythological beast. All of the vermilion bird, powerful beings couldn't help but feel jealous. You're just lucky. What are you so proud of? Humph, he will definitely fail this time. The inheritance is not that easy to obtain. If this human manages to obtain the legacy, I'll immediately jump down from the sun tree. That's impossible anyway. It couldn't be helped. They had been yearning for the inheritance for so long, but they hadn't gained much from it. On the other hand, Lin had obtained the core inheritance of the eternal sun god. This kind of strong contrast made the proud vermilion bird tribe extremely upset, and Lin hummed a little tune as he arrived before the mythological beast Kuinpeng. He looked around at the Vermilion Bird clan members who were sneaking glances at him. Seeing that they were speaking in jealousy, he was secretly pleased. That's right. Building happiness on the enemy's negative emotions felt really good. And Lin continued to pour his blood essence onto the mythological beast statue of Kuinpeng. The golden red essence blood was absorbed by the statue once again, and the statue trembled as if it had come to life. A vast and boundless voice rang out, as if it was above the 9 heavens. Is there a need to pursue something that has been lost? The Kuinpeng's voice sounded. It was neither near nor far, but it flowed into Lin's heart like a stream of water. And Lin fell into deep thought upon hearing this question. This seemed to be an open-ended question. Whether or not to pursue something that had been lost seemed to have something to do with one's state of mind. Pursuing something or not also depended on what it was that had been lost. What was the point of asking this question? No. A thought flashed through in Lin's mind. This was a psychological question, and he had to analyze it from the perspective of the Kuinpeng. The Kuinpeng liked to travel all over the world, so it had to have a carefree personality. Hence, he looked at the Kuinpeng with a smile. Something that has been lost has never truly belonged to you, so there's no need to lament or pursue it. Not long after his voice trailed off, the Kuinpeng's voice sounded again. All right. Boom! Another extremely dazzling pillar of light descended upon Lin's glabella. I'm not dreaming, am I? Hey, Tinga stared blankly at the man beside him. It's here. The core light of inheritance has appeared again. All of the Vermilion Bird tribe living beings screamed. What a dazzling light! Lin has received the approval of another mythological beast. No. How can this be? I refuse to accept this. How can a human do this? He's just a human. One of the Vermilion Birds clutched its head and shook its head relentlessly as it fell into a state of deep self-doubt. Just as all of the Vermilion Bird powerful beings were in shock, a vast amount of information began to flow into Lin's mind. Kuinpeng travel. The Kuinpeng rises with the wind in a single day and can ascend for 90,000 kilometers. Kuinpeng travel was the pinnacle of the power of wind. After mastering this technique, one's speed would be enhanced to the extreme, regardless of whether it was in pursuit or flight. The spell technique, true intent, Tao realm, and all types of information flowed into Lin's mind. 15 minutes later, Lin blinked with contentment, and his aura became a little more ethereal and ethereal. Oops, there's too much information. My head is about to explode. Senior Kuinpeng, why did you have to be so polite and impart so many things to me? And Lin grumbled with a resigned expression. All of the Vermilion Birds exploded with rage upon hearing this. I can't take it anymore. I'm going to kill this flexing bastard. A return to Void Stage Vermilion Bird screeched as it pounced toward Lin. Calm down, immortal Vermilion Bird Meng Kuin. This is the 7th level, and fighting is prohibited here. A Vermilion Bird tried to dissuade it. I'm a return to Void Stage Immortal Beast, and I've been here for over 100 years without receiving the core inheritance of a mythological beast. I refuse to accept this. Another return to Void Stage Vermilion Bird heaved a long sigh into the sky. Why is this happening? Why is this human receiving the approval of so many mythological beasts? He's such a lowly bastard, so how is he doing this? A Vermilion Bird lamented, and Lin's face convulsed upon hearing this. He couldn't just pretend that he hadn't heard this. He turned toward a certain Vermilion Bird with narrowed eyes. Who was it that said he would jump down from the sun tree if I received the inheritance? Wah! It wasn't me. Why are you all looking at me? Wah wah! A Vermilion Bird scurried away like a frightened rat, disappearing from everyone's field of vision. As for jumping down from the sun tree, what a joke! Flying was prohibited here. If he jumped down, he would be killed by the power of the sun tree before falling to his death. All of the vermilion birds sighed with emotion at the sight of their friend fleeing in such a sorry state. A triumphant smile appeared on Enlin's face as he waved a hand through the air. "Let's go. Hey, Tinga! Let's go to the statue of the 9-colored divine vermilion bird." He didn't know whether it was his blood or his eloquence, but it seemed like none of the mythological beasts here were averse to him, which filled him with a lot of confidence. "Hey!" Tinga came to his senses, and he stared at Enlin as if he were looking at a monster. Enlin made his way toward the 9-colored divine vermilion bird before tossing another drop of blood essence toward it. Splat! The drop of blood essence landed on the statue of the 9-colored divine vermilion bird, upon which a vibrant flower of blood blossomed. Deathly silence ensued. All of the vermilion birds were also slightly dazed upon seeing this. Enlin paused momentarily before tossing another drop of blood essence onto the statue of the 9-colored divine vermilion bird. The air remained extremely silent and nothing changed. All of the vermilion birds were used to being shocked by Enlin, so they were inexplicably nervous upon seeing this. However, all of them finally began to chortle with mirth at the sight of the statue's lack of reaction. "Ha ha ha! I knew it! How could Lin and receive the acknowledgement of all of the mythological beasts? Wah wah wah! I knew it! How could Lin and receive the acknowledgement of all of the mythological beasts? Wah wah wah! Let's see what Linen has to be so smug about." A dejected expression appeared on Enlin's face. "I've really embarrassed myself. I interacted with 3 mythological beasts, but I only received 2 core inheritances. I really don't have the face to face all of you. I don't deserve to stand on the sun tree." All of the vermilion birds' mocking laughter abruptly died down. PFFF. Some of the vermilion birds threw up mouthfuls of blood from rage. F***CK. You received 2 core inheritances, so you don't deserve to stand on the sun tree? Then what about all of US, who didn't even receive a single core inheritance? All of the vermilion birds glared at Enlin with rage and resentment, but they didn't know what to say. Only now did they realize that this human really wasn't as simple as he seemed. Chapter 939. Not only was this human male despicable, but he was also very good at mocking them. The proud vermilion bird tribe cultivators were starting to doubt their lives. The only point of mockery was wiped away by Enlin's nonchalant response. No one could stop Enlin's footsteps, and he continued onward toward the 4th mythological beast. This was the immortal divine vermilion bird, a Tao integration stage mythological beast that had died to the purple star Tao vanquishing formation. Apparently, it was also the most ancient mythological beast of the sun tree. Enlin immediately tossed a drop of blood essence toward the immortal divine vermilion bird without any hesitation. It didn't matter to him whether or not he had the approval of a mythological beast, so he didn't really care. The drop of blood essence landed on the statue and was quickly absorbed. All of the vermilion bird's nervous expressions were replaced by astonishment upon seeing this. Some of the vermilion bird's expressions had even twisted as they bit down on the tips of their beaks. That's right. All of them had become completely unrecognizable from jealousy. An elderly, hoarse voice sounded from within the statue. "What is the difference between loneliness and loneliness?" And Lin was ecstatic to hear this. He had heard this before. Once upon a time, he had also been an artistic youth. There seemed to be no difference between these 2 terms, but the emotions they conveyed were quite different. An expression of indifference appeared on his face. Loneliness is when others don't want to talk to you, while loneliness is when you don't want to talk to others. After a moment of silence, the statue spoke again. "Your answer isn't artistic enough." And Lin's heart jolted with shock. Could it be that this immortal divine vermilion bird was also an artistic enthusiast? Loneliness is the helplessness of being left behind by others, while loneliness is the strength of being away from others. Another moment of silence ensued. All right. True powerful beings stand at the pinnacle of all living beings and are destined to be lonely. I look on as time passes by, but it's not loneliness, it's loneliness. The voice sounded like a sigh, and it sounded like a distant sigh, and Lin chuckled internally. Even though powerful beings were always lonely, he was so bad *SS, and he had the company of his beautiful Xiaolan and all of his adorable friends. Perhaps this was the sigh of a single bird. All he had to do was nod in agreement. The dazzling light of inheritance fell upon Lin's body before the vermilion bird, powerful being's eyes. He has already obtained 3 core inheritances in a row. This has never happened before in our divine beast Tao comprehension area. 1 might be luck, but 3 in a row. Some of the vermilion birds wore expressions of despair. Even though they didn't want to admit it, they had no choice but to accept this reality. Perhaps this is the real boss. His bloodline is definitely very powerful. Perhaps he possesses an extremely pure bloodline of the vermilion bird. Moreover, he is very eloquent and knowledgeable, and is deeply loved by the mighty divine beasts. Sigh, were all inferior to him. A return to void stage vermilion bird stared at the man enshrouded in golden light with awe and veneration in its eyes. Hey, Tinga looked at the man beside him with a scorching light in his eyes, and Lin's confident and indifferent expression, as well as his coquettish posture of obtaining the core inheritance, as if he was mowing grass, had already completely conquered it. Blood doppelganger technique. Once this technique is practiced, one can release their blood essence and inject the power of their divine sense to create doppelgangers that are controlled by their divine sense. The stronger the divine sense, the more doppelgangers can be created. A huge amount of information began to flow into Lin's mind. And Lin was already very familiar with this technique, and he accepted this ancient mythological beast's inheritance with a calm expression. This blood clone technique could be combined with the water clone technique of the divine creation elixir cultivation technique to create an even more powerful clone technique. Soon, the inheritance process concluded, and Lin heaved a light sigh of relief before bowing deeply to the statue of the immortal divine vermilion bird to express his gratitude. Let's go, Heitinga. Let's go to the statue of the mutant blood phoenix. Tinga nodded blankly upon hearing this before following along behind Lin. And Lin didn't mock the vermilion birds present, but the indifferent expression on his face made all of them shudder. This was the gaze of a powerful boss. All of the vermilion birds looked on at Lin's departing figure, and they suddenly felt as if he were becoming taller and taller. And Lin arrived before the mutant blood phoenix, and a grave expression finally appeared on his face. He released his blood essence, which slowly dripped onto the statue of the mutant blood phoenix. And Lin's blood essence was then absorbed by the mutant blood phoenix. The statue of the mutant blood phoenix began to tremble violently as a burst of pressure erupted forth. All of the vermilion bird's expressions shifted drastically. My God, what's with such a violent reaction? Even the essential power left behind by the mutant blood phoenix has been activated. This is unprecedented. Who is Lin? Why is he able to trigger such a drastic reaction? All of the vermilion birds were astonished as they stared blankly at the trembling statue. A sense of foreboding welled up in Lin's heart. The mutant blood phoenix's proud, yet curious voice sounded. Who are you? Why do you possess my power? So it knows that I possess its power? And Lin came to a sudden realization, and he clasped his hands behind his back as the aura unique to the mutant blood phoenix erupted forth. At the same time, the white vermilion bird in his sea of vital energy raised its head, and the red vein patterns on its body swirled as an even more powerful aura erupted forth. Boom! All of the vermilion bird tribe, powerful beings, present felt their breathing falter as their bodies trembled violently, and they were struck by the urge to submit to the man standing nearby. What's going on? This aura is so terrifying. Bloodline pressure. I can actually feel bloodline pressure from this human. Who is this Lin, and why does he possess such power? All of the Vermilion Bird tribe powerful beings were truly scared now. The bloodline power unleashed by a human was able to suppress their bloodlines? How could they believe it? And Lin looked at the statue with a calm expression. Who I am isn't important. You're just a remnant power. So why aren't you submitting to me? All of the Vermilion Birds exploded into a frenzy upon hearing this. Impudence! How dare you speak to a mighty mythological beast like this? This is extremely disrespectful. We should kill him on the spot. Don't worry, we won't even need to do anything to him. The remnant power left behind by the mythological beast will kill him on the spot. Many of the Vermilion Birds glowered at this arrogant human. Yes, the statue trembled slightly as an expression of submission appeared on its face. A pillar of golden light rose into the sky from the statue before descending upon Lin's body, enshrouding his entire body within. Boom! The golden light seemed to have eclipsed all other colors as it descended like a waterfall. The indescribable light of inheritance lit up the entire 7th level. All of the Vermilion Birds were dumbstruck as they stared at the scenes unfolding before their eyes. Some of the Vermilion Birds' legs had even given out from under them, and they collapsed to the ground as they murmured to themselves. Why is this happening? Is this the F** King, Light of Inheritance? Chapter 940. And Lin's entire body was enshrouded by the light of inheritance, and a sense of elation welled up in his heart. He was the one who had obtained the mutant blood phoenix's Tao intent talisman in the vast land of blood. That talisman was imbued with the power of the mutant blood phoenix, as well as its most powerful Tao intent technique. So it was definitely more powerful than the power it had left behind in the statue. Hence, Lin really could make the statue submit to him. Powerful phoenix power flowed relentlessly into his body, and all types of inheritances regarding the mutant blood phoenix also flowed into his mind. The light of inheritance was like a pillar of light that was extremely dazzling. All of the phoenixes were dumbstruck. Is this a miracle? I've never seen such a terrifying light of inheritance in my entire life. That's terrifying. Is it going to pass on all of this information to Lin? The vast amount of light of inheritance lasted for a full 15 minutes before dissipating, and Lin shook his head. I'm so full. All of the Vermilion Birds threw up another mouthful of blood upon hearing this. This human was F** King evil. He was still trying to take advantage of them. This was way too exciting, and Lin shook his head. Even though there was a lot of information, there weren't many practical spell techniques. He had already obtained the most powerful one, the sun-setting technique. His biggest reward was the power left behind by the mutant blood phoenix. After that power fused into his body, the purity of his blood phoenix divine flame was elevated to the level of a top-tier divine flame. Who is this Lin? How could a soul formation stage gladiator possess such insane power? A white Vermilion Bird asked with shock and horror. I heard he's an exceptional prodigy who was able to fight the Vermilion Bird Princess to a draw. He's extremely powerful, but in this place, strength alone is not enough. Could it be that he's the illegitimate child of a mythological beast and a human, which is why he possesses a very pure Vermilion Bird bloodline? If that's the case, how could we not know? All of the Vermilion Birds didn't dare to underestimate Lin anymore. All of them were now filled with awe and curiosity toward Lin. Whether it was the bloodline pressure that Lin had displayed or the recognition that he had received from the mythological beasts, they all felt immense pressure. Now that I think about it, Lin has already obtained the recognition of a total of 4 divine beasts here. Moreover, it's the recognition of the highest level core inheritance. This can be said to be unprecedented in our divine beast enlightenment area, right? That's right. Even immortal beasts at the return to void pinnacle stage don't have such terrifying feats. That's too frightening. For of the 5 divine beasts all approve of Linen, and he's just a human. If news of this gets out, it'll probably cause a huge stir in the entire vermilion bird tribe. We have to keep this a secret, or else our race's creatures will suffer a great blow. I fear that there will be quite a few existences who will doubt their lives. I'm already doubting my life as a bird. Is Linen the descendant of the vermilion bird? Or are we the descendants of the vermilion bird? Why is the gap so big? Thank God Lin has only received the recognition of 4 mythological beasts. If he had received the recognition of all of the mythological beasts, then I would probably have to kneel before him. Ha ha ha. Don't worry, fallen ice blue vermilion bird. Everything that's happening right now can only be described as terrifying. You're talking about receiving the recognition of all of the mythological beasts. How could something as bizarre as that happen? A vermilion bird comforted its companion with a smile, as if it was also consoling itself. Right at this moment, another resounding boom erupted. A beam of golden light pierced through the air before landing on Lin's body. All of the vermilion birds fell into a daze upon seeing the source of the golden light. This was because the source of the golden light was none other than the 9-colored divine vermilion bird statue that had shown no reaction to Lin's blood essence. The golden light was extremely dazzling, and it was also an extremely powerful golden light of inheritance. And Lin was also dumbstruck. Why was the inheritance suddenly shooting toward him at a time like this? Not only him, but all of the vermilion bird powerful beings were also perplexed. As if guessing what the spectators were thinking, an extremely sweet and pleasant voice sounded out and explained, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've been thinking about what inheritance to give you. Now that I've thought it through, please accept the inheritance." Gasp! All of the onlookers drew a sharp intake of breath. Holy F***CK! This was the reason why the golden inheritance was suddenly shooting toward him, and Lin suddenly realized that something was amiss. Wait, you haven't asked me a question yet. Oh, the 9-colored divine vermilion bird statue faltered momentarily before asking, "Do you think I'm beautiful?" And Lin faltered momentarily before offering words of praise. "You're the most beautiful divine vermilion bird I've ever seen. You're a peerless beauty and a peerless beauty." All right, the 9-colored divine vermilion bird was very happy. Now then, accept the inheritance. And Lin, all of the vermilion bird tribe onlookers, was this really AF** king question? Did she misunderstand the meaning of the word question? This was a free question. Boom! The light of inheritance hurtled toward Lin's body without any hesitation. And Lin began to wail like a little submissive, as if his body was struggling after receiving so many inheritances in succession. That's right, the 9-colored divine vermilion bird seemed to be forcing the inheritance onto Lin. It was as if Lin wasn't asking for the inheritance, but the 9-colored divine vermilion bird was forcing the inheritance onto him. All of the vermilion birds were completely dumbstruck upon hearing Lin's anguished cries. Perhaps this was the 9-colored divine vermilion bird's frustrations. Boom, boom, boom. All of the vermilion birds knelt to the ground and knelt to Lin. All of the mythological beasts of the sun tree were highly approving of Lin. This was an unprecedented event, and a new miracle had been created for the sun tree. In that instant, Lin was as dazzling as a god to them. And Lin was currently accepting the 9-colored divine vermilion bird's inheritance. He didn't know why the 9-colored divine vermilion bird was so nice to him, but with the attitude of a bastard who wouldn't take advantage of a situation, he naturally wouldn't reject such a gift. A huge amount of information flowed into Lin's mind like a tidal wave, and he finally understood the contents of this inheritance. 5 elements combination technique. Fuse the powers of the 5 elements within one's body to create a brand new power of the 5 elements, and Lin's eyes lit up as he digested the information regarding this spell technique. This spell was very much to his liking. It would be very useful to him. After accepting the inheritance, he turned to the proud and beautiful peacock with a grateful expression and bowed deeply. "Thank you for your gift, Senior." Among the 5 mythological beasts, the 9-colored divine vermilion bird's inheritance was the one that he was most satisfied with. After everything returned to normal, and Lin came to his senses and looked around to discover that all of the vermilion birds were sprawled on the ground, as if they were kowtowing to him. And Lin had seen this type of scene many times, so he was very calm and collected. He smiled faintly and said in a dignified yet amiable tone, "Ha ha! Everyone, there is no need to be so courteous. Please rise, all of the vermilion birds." Chapter 941. The vermilion bird tribe cultivators didn't know what to say after hearing Lin's words. They had to admit that they had indeed been won over by Lin's performance, and they couldn't help but kneel down to him. But how was it that Lin was able to face their reverence with such proficiency? Kneel? F***CK off. Do you really think we want to kneel down to you? The vermilion birds grumbled internally, but they didn't know what to say. They didn't have the face to belittle Lin, but they couldn't bring themselves to praise Lin. And Lin couldn't be bothered to deal with the vermilion birds. He turned to Hei Tinga with a smile. "Thank you, Mr. Hei Tinga. If you hadn't brought me to the mythological beast Dao observation area, I wouldn't have been able to reap the rewards I have today." Hei Tinga's body shuddered, and he came to his senses as he stared at Lin with a fervent expression. "Mr. Lin, who are you? Why are you so exceptional?" And Lin replied nonchalantly, "Shouldn't someone who can fight to a draw with your sun tree war god, the vermilion bird princess, be exceptional?" Hei Tinga, the brawny man in black, reluctantly accepted Lin's explanation. After all, there was nothing he could do if Lin didn't want to give a detailed explanation. "I'll have to trouble you to lead the way, Mr. Hei Tinga. It's best if we go to a place like the mythological Beast Dao observation area, a place where fated people can receive blessings. I feel like I have quite the affinity with your sun tree," Lin said with a hint of longing in his voice. Hei Tinga's flesh crawled. The mythological Beast Dao observation area is the best place for the champion of the arena, and it's also the core area of the 7th level. "Mr. Lin, you've received more mythological beast inheritances than all of the living beings on the 7th level." "Oh," and Lin nodded upon hearing this. This was a basic principle, so he wasn't feeling smug. Perhaps this was what it meant to be a person who didn't care about material gains or losses. "Is there anything good on the 8th level?" And Lin feigned nonchalance. "The 8th floor." Hei Tinga's expression shifted slightly. "That place is a restricted area even for our vermilion bird tribe, and only Dao integration stage mythological beasts have the right to enter. We don't even know where the passageway to the 8th layer is." "The 8th level is so mysterious? Then wouldn't the legendary 9th level and guardian of the sun tree be even more powerful?" And Lin exclaimed in amazement. "That's right. Apparently, the guardian of the sun tree is an extremely revered being on the 9th level. Only Dao integration stage mythological beasts have seen its true appearance, and Dao integration stage mythological beasts have to obtain its permission to see it. If it doesn't agree, even Dao integration stage mythological beasts won't be able to see it." A hint of curiosity and yearning appeared on Hei Tinga's face at the mention of the guardian of the sun tree. Who wouldn't want to see a legendary figure with their own eyes? And Lin. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that the system mission was a scam. If he failed, 100 IQ points would be deducted. Could it be that the system wanted to turn him into a retard on purpose, so it created this mission? The more Lin thought about it, the more vexed he became. He had finally made it to the 7th level, only to find that the path to the next 2 levels had been completely blocked. There was no hope for him at all. Hei Tinga led Lin onward, passing by one scenic spot after another. However, he was greeted by the sight of Lin's disgruntled expression. And Lin's heart was instantly filled with indignation. What? You've received the blessings of 5 mythological beasts in a row, and you're not King happy? Even though he was a little disgruntled, he put on a facade and maintained a cheerful expression on his face. Hey Tinga, who was responsible for receiving visitors, was a professional. Along the way, many Vermilion bird tribe living beings turned to look at Lin. News of the mythological beast Dao observation area hadn't spread yet, but many Vermilion bird tribe living beings knew that the dazzling light of inheritance had most likely been triggered by this human. It was exactly because of this that they were all extremely curious about Lin. Even the extremely proud Vermilion birds, who were immortal beasts, couldn't help but lower their heads and appraise the human with curiosity in their eyes. And Lin was still a little unaccustomed to the fact that he had suddenly transformed into a panda. However, he didn't say anything. No birds dared to provoke him, so he couldn't be bothered to deal with them. Hey, you're Lin in? A voice suddenly sounded, and Lin turned to discover that a vermilion bird with a pair of inky black claws and pristine white feathers was staring at him with a scorching light in its eyes. This was a return to Void Stage immortal beast with a decent cultivation base. That's right, and Lin nodded. My name is Baishinga. I really liked the Vermilion bird princess from the arena, but you killed her, so I challenge you to a duel, the white Vermilion bird announced. And Lin faltered upon hearing this. Were all duels this straightforward these days? Senior Baishinga, please calm down. Hey, Tinga stood before Lin and tried to dissuade him, and Lin was a little touched upon seeing this, not taking into account anything else. Just the fact that Tinga was willing to risk his life to protect him from a return to Void Stage immortal beast was enough to make him very fond of him. The power that Lin displayed at the arena has already transcended beyond the return to Void Intermediate Stage, but you're a return to Void Intermediate Stage immortal beast. If you challenge him to a duel, he'll beat you to death. Tinga spoke with a tense expression, and Baishinga, and Lin's impression of Lin plummeted to negative after hearing this. He was finally touched, but this was what he was worried about. However, Baishinga was not enraged in the slightest. Instead, a faint smile appeared on his face. I'm not going to challenge Lin into a duel of power. Instead, I'm going to challenge him to a duel of Dao hearts. Tinga's expression shifted drastically. You're talking about the duel at the Heart Examining Lake? That's right. I want to challenge Lin into a duel to see whose Dao heart is more resolute. A proud expression appeared on Baishinga's face. I refuse, and Lin immediately refused. Baishinga and Tinga both faltered upon hearing this. Why would you refuse my challenge? Baishinga's eyes widened. Why would I accept your challenge? And Lin retorted. Baishinga glared at Lin. For glory, of course. I want to prove myself. Puffed. And Lin couldn't help but burst into laughter before he even had a chance to finish a sentence. Sorry, but I'm very bad *SS. I know that, and everyone else knows that. Hence, I don't need to prove myself to you. And Lin's eyes lit up as he raised his head, and a peerlessly domineering aura began to emanate from his body. In other words, who the hell do you think you are to deserve a duel from me? How could you do this? Baishinga's body trembled with rage. It had thought that such a proud person would definitely accept its challenge, but it didn't think that he would receive such a reply. Lin, the duel at the Heart Examining Lake is only a duel of Dao hearts. There will be no life-threatening injuries, so you don't have to worry about that. If I lose, I'll give you 3 sun immortal fruits from the 7th level of the Sun Tree. If you lose, you don't have to do anything other than leave the Sun Tree immediately. Baishinga still didn't give up, and Lin was even more adamant upon hearing this. If he lost, he would have to leave the Sun Tree immediately and become a retard. I refuse. This time his reply was even more resolute. This time, even Tinga agreed with Lin's decision. The heart-examining lake is the most peculiar place on the 7th level of the Sun Tree. It is inextricably linked to all 9 continents of the Sun Tree, so it is indeed not suitable for outsiders to enter. I agree with fellow Taoist Lin An's decision. Senior Baishinga, you were too reckless. Hey, Tinga spoke in a voice that was neither servile nor overbearing. But our mighty mythological beast didn't explicitly forbid outsiders from entering the heart-examining lake, did it? Baishinga didn't give up. It was still making its final struggle, and Lin caught on to this point and heaved a faint sigh. I'm truly moved to see fellow Taoist Baishinga's stubbornness. So be it, I'll compete with you. Hey, Tinga. Baishinga looked at Lin and opened its mouth, but it didn't know what to say. Was what it had just said so touching? Wasn't this human's touching point a little strange? Chapter 942. Baishinga also continued onward, and it insisted on staying one body ahead of Lin like a child throwing a tantrum. And Lin, why don't you have any expression of pain on your face at all? Ripples spread out, and his own reflection appeared in the clear lake under the faint white light. No, you must be putting on an act to put pressure on me. He turned toward Baishinga with a faint smile. Shall we begin? And Lin continued onward. He didn't dare to walk too quickly in case he suddenly fell into the lake. He didn't fall, and Lin was extremely excited. Even so, it still unleashed a spell technique to shrink its body to around the same size as Lin before continuing onward. It had very complex emotions toward Lin. Its favorite gladiator had died at the hands of Lin. Even though that was a fair and square battle, Lin's appearance here still made it very uncomfortable. So, could he enter the 8th level of the Sun Tree by following the flow of Yin energy? Thus, the human and the bird walked for several hundred meters. It wasn't that he didn't want to pay attention to Baishinga, but he didn't even know what his Tao heart was. He couldn't help but glance at Baishinga. After walking for a short distance, they saw an extremely clear lake. F***CK. It was exhausted to the point where it had to use all its strength to walk in front. The man behind it didn't seem to be in any pain at all, and he even had the energy to taunt it. He could see that Baishinga's entire body was trembling as if it were convulsing, and it seemed to be expending an extremely large amount of energy with each and every step it took. Even so, it still walked with all its might until it was one body ahead of Lin, and Lin's brows furrowed slightly. Something wasn't right. There was something wrong with this battle, and Lin unleashed his divine sense to investigate, only to find that even his powerful divine sense was unable to penetrate the white mist. It had to be said that this was quite a provocation. The lake was vast, rippling with spiritual ripples. Yin attributed energy poured in from all directions, gathering here. It was rich to the extreme. PFFF. Baishinga spat out a mouthful of blood. Hey Tinga and Baishinga were very surprised by Lin's sudden change in attitude. He wouldn't have known if he hadn't taken a look, but the moment he did, he was shocked. He felt that this heart-questioning lake wasn't as difficult as he had imagined. Stepping on it felt like he was walking on flat ground, and he didn't feel any discomfort at all. Baishinga captured Lin's expression very well. He was very happy to see the fear on Lin's face and smiled faintly. What? Are you afraid, fellow Taoist Lin? Baishinga led the way with excitement in his heart. And Lin didn't say anything and took the first step towards the heart-questioning lake. And Lin rolled his eyes helplessly. Baishinga wanted to pass the Tao heart trial for 2 reasons. On one hand, he wanted to put an end to this knot in his heart, and on the other hand, he didn't want Lin to continue staying at the Sun Tree. Who's your little brother? I, Baishinga, have never been inferior to anyone in my life, and I will never be inferior to you. Baishinga turned to Lin and said fiercely, Holy F***CK, what are you doing, brother Bai? And Lin let loose a cry of surprise. Baishinga suddenly came to a realization and chuckled coldly. Hee, what a cunning little brat. Your Tao heart must be trembling right now, and you're in a lot of pain and can't hold on much longer, right? I've already seen through your ruse. So I'll definitely be the final victor. Humph. Keep flexing all you want. Let's see how you're going to keep up the act after you fall into the lake. Baishinga grumbled angrily at the sight of Enlin's complete disregard for its battle proclamation. Enlin, it was enshrouded in a faint white mist, and there was no end in sight. It also stepped onto the surface of the lake, and the ripples on the surface of the lake also lifted its body into the air. Linen, let's begin our battle. I'll show you that your Tao heart is nothing in my eyes. Baishinga tidied its feathers and looked at Enlin with raging battle intent. He was quite surprised to find such rich yin energy in an area enshrouded in yang energy. Furthermore, there were no illusions or tribulations to impede it. It really was as if it were walking. Perhaps this was what Heitinga meant by its connection to the sun tree. It had walked for so long, yet there were no obstacles or difficulties. How could a battle that tested one's Tao heart be this simple? It wasn't very large, and it was only about 30 to 40 times the size of Enlin. Baishinga didn't say anything, but there was a hint of respect in its eyes. Even its wings had completely folded up, as if it had entered a holy place. Baishinga nodded. That's right. This heart-examining lake is paved with one's Tao heart, and how far you can go will determine how resilient your Tao heart is. If your Tao heart becomes unstable, the lake beneath your feet will no longer be able to support your body, and you'll fall into the lake before being swept back to the shore. Was this bird sick in the head? You. Baishinga's expression darkened with rage. I hope you'll still be able to say something like that when you fall into the lake as a loser. He could do it, he could do it. And Lin's expression remained indifferent, and he couldn't be bothered to respond to Baishinga. Instead, he looked into the distance with a profound expression, and his white robe fluttered in the wind. A pained expression, and Lin blinked before suddenly sticking out his tongue. His eyes rolled over as he spoke in a raspy voice, like this. This was a very petite figure among the vermilion bird tribe. That's right. This is the only place on the sun tree that we've discovered that possesses powerful yin-type energy. Yin and yang are mutually reinforcing, and it's because of this place that the sun tree is in perfect harmony, Heitinga explained. However, Enlin's decision to compete with Baishinga at the heart-examining lake still made Baishinga very happy, and he immediately agreed. This is yin-type energy, and Lin was a little surprised. He couldn't help but feel a little scared with this in mind, and Lin thought back to the Tao Exchange Conference of the Four Powers. There had also been a trial to test one's Tao heart, and he couldn't even take a single step at that time. In the end, he received a score of 0. 1 point. The two of them bickered for a while before the competition finally began. Baishinga was stunned upon seeing Enlin's expression. Heitinga stood on the shore, but he couldn't see them due to the white mist that obscured his view. Just by approaching that place, he could already sense a cool and sinister feeling. Enlin followed Baishinga to the western border of the continent, where there was a cave entrance that was constructed from intertwining white branches. This is the heart-examining lake? Enlin asked. All right, I'll take you to the heart-examining lake right away. Lin, and Baishinga's expression shifted slightly at the sight of Enlin's confident and domineering expression, and he raised his proud head. Come on. Enlin secretly observed his surroundings and discovered that the yin-type energy flowed and converged from above and below. This meant that a portion of the yin-type energy was flowing down from the 8th or even the 9th level. Chapter 943. The man and the bird walked for another few hundred meters. Baishinga's teeth chattered as sweat poured down its forehead. It looked at the man beside it to find that he was still walking with a calm expression, without any signs of fatigue or pain. How could he possibly put on an act? And Lin detected Baishinga's gaze, and a faint smile appeared on his face as he turned to the vermilion bird beside him. I'm so tired. This heart-examining lake is way too terrifying. PFFF. Baishinga felt as if 10,000 mythological beasts were stampeding over its heart, and it almost fell to its knees. How could this be? How could you be completely fine? Baishinga was in despair. This human was definitely a monster. It was almost at the end of its rope, but Lin was completely at ease. It also knew that this was not an act. Rather, it was a feeling that emanated from the inside out. Could it be? Baishinga's pupils contracted as it stared at Enlin in astonishment. You've already reached the Tao Heart Realm? Enlin looked at the vermilion bird with a meaningful expression and was full of praise in his heart. He was just wondering why he wasn't affected by the heart-examining lake when this enthusiastic vermilion bird provided him with an explanation. Amazing! The heart-examining lake contains extremely rich yin-type power that can reflect one's body. If one's Tao heart is filled with distracting thoughts, they will be battered by the power of the lake. Distracting thoughts are like rocks in a river, constantly being battered by the power of the lake until they can no longer hold on. However, if one can reach the legendary Tao Heart Realm, they will be able to traverse the heart-examining lake without any obstacles. That's right, this is definitely the Tao Heart Realm. Lin, you sure hid your abilities well. Baishinga drew a sharp intake of breath as it stared at Enlin. Its eyes were filled with indignation, as well as admiration after being defeated. To be able to lose to a being with a Tao Heart Realm without a Tao Heart Realm. Even if I lose this heart-examining lake trial, it's not an unfair loss. Perhaps the Vermilion Bird Princess, losing to you, was also destined. It stared at Enlin with even more fighting spirit burning in its eyes. However, I won't give up so easily. I will continue onward. The trial is not over yet. Boom! PFFF! Before Baishinga could finish his sentence, he lost his footing and fell into the lake, creating a huge splash. Baishinga yelled as his body was swept away by the terrifying lake water and disappeared into the white mist. And Lin, thank you for your hard work. You even explained everything to me before you fell. And Lin thanked Baishinga from the bottom of his heart. However, the explanation of having a pure Tao heart was really quite strange. He didn't know what Tao he was pursuing, so he naturally didn't know whether his Tao heart was firm or not. To him, the Tao heart was like a piece of white paper, hazy and indistinct. Could it be that the naive Tao heart could be expressed as a pure Tao heart? And Lin found it interesting and was in a good mood. He hummed a tune and continued walking forward. A pure Tao heart, it sounded like a very awesome realm. He was naturally very happy to have such a realm. At this moment, at the edge of the heart-examining lake, Hei Tinga could hear the sound of flowing water in the distance. A serious expression appeared on his face. The outcome of the battle had been decided. Sure enough, Baishinga's body appeared in his field of vision before being swept toward him by the yin-type lake water. Boom! Baishinga's body was mercilessly slammed into the ground by the lake water, and it looked extremely disheveled. Senior Baishinga, did you lose? Hei Tinga asked with incredulity. Generally speaking, the higher the cultivation base of a living being, the more stable their Tao heart would be. However, Hei Tinga was extremely shocked to see this. Baishinga wriggled its body to get rid of the lake water, then raised its proud head as if it had forgotten about its previous sorry state. That's right, I've lost. I didn't think that Lin would be a being with a pure Tao heart. I've miscalculated. A pure Tao heart. Hei Tinga jumped to his feet and let loose a cry of surprise. Legend has it that this type of Tao heart can directly connect to the great Tao of heaven and earth, allowing one to see true knowledge amidst chaos. It's extremely easy for one to break through to the next cultivation base. Who would have thought that Lin would be this terrifying? He had defeated the Vermilion Bird Princess and received the acknowledgement of the 5 mythological beasts. Now Lin had a pure Tao heart. Hei Tinga really didn't know what he should feel when facing this miraculous man. After a short while, Hei Tinga finally came to his senses. He looked up at the white mist with a curious expression. Lin and has already defeated you. Where is he? The outcome has already been decided. He should be walking back now. Let's wait a little longer, Baishinga replied in an indifferent voice. Thus, Baishinga and Hei Tinga both turned their eyes toward the white mist. 15 minutes passed. Everything was eerily quiet. Senior Baishinga, does it take that long to return? Hei Tinga couldn't help but break the silence. Baishinga, perhaps he encountered some special circumstances? Baishinga spoke with difficulty. What kind of special circumstances could he have encountered? Perhaps he fell into the lake and drowned? Hei Tinga's lips twitched. Baishinga, Senior, I have a bold speculation. Could it be that Lin and doesn't want to come back? Could it be that he's still walking forward? Hei Tinga and Baishinga both drew a sharp intake of breath before they even had a chance to finish their sentence. A chill ran down their spines. Senior, why didn't you tell Lin and that it was forbidden to enter this place? Hei Tinga's body trembled. I didn't think he would be able to defeat me. A normal living being wouldn't be able to make it to the other side. Baishinga was a return to Void Stage mighty figure, but he was also trembling uncontrollably. Don't worry, we must be overthinking things. Lin and is definitely on his way back. Baishinga offered words of consolation. He must have encountered some kind of emergency, such as merging his intent realm and achieving some enlightenment. Mr. Lin and must be on his way back right now. Hei Tinga also offered words of consolation. Baishinga, let's wait a little longer. Hei Tinga, all right, let's wait a little longer. The two Vermilion Bird tribe powerful beings were eagerly awaiting Lin An's return. Within the depths of the heart-examining lake, and Lin continued onward with steady and unwavering footsteps. He wanted to see what lay at the other end of the heart-examining lake. After walking for what seemed like an eternity, a beautiful ballad began to sound from within the white mist. He couldn't understand what was being sung. It seemed to be a strange language, but that didn't diminish the beauty of the ballad in the slightest. The melody was extremely moving, and the voice was pleasing to the ears. It was like a surging sea of clouds, surging river tides, graceful mountain ranges, flowers, insects, and birds dancing in the wind. She was singing about a world, a beautiful world in her imagination. And Lin walked out from the heart-examining lake and passed through the white mist before spotting a figure. Chapter 944. The heavenly song abruptly came to an end, and Lin had just passed through the white mist when he saw a woman bathing on a small white lake. The two of them were rooted to the spot and looked at each other. Everything was deathly silent. The only sound that could be heard was the dripping sound of white water droplets falling into the lake. The woman's eyes were bright and piercing, and there was a faint blush on her flawless cheeks. Her lips were as supple as rose petals. Translucent water droplets flowed down the woman's jet-black hair before landing on her smooth shoulders. Her petite figure was entwined by a few colorful streamers, creating an extremely alluring sight. Her chest rose and fell, and one could almost see 2 spots of red, and Lin had never thought that he would be able to witness such an erotic scene. However, he didn't have time to appreciate it, because the scene in front of him gave him a different kind of shock. Lin and Vermilion Bird Princess. The two of them called out each other's names at the same time. Vermilion Bird Princess, it really is you. How did you revive? And Lin was astonished. A faint blush appeared on the woman's face as she waved a hand at Lin, and Lin felt his vision blur, and when he regained his vision, he was greeted by the sight of a beautiful young woman in neat and tidy clothes. The young woman was still wearing her red high heels and a colorful dress, giving her a youthful and vibrant appearance. Clatter, clatter, she made her way toward Lin, and Lin's entire body tensed up as he braced himself for battle. He had accidentally witnessed a woman bathing. According to the script, it was going to be a fight between a man and a woman. However, a slender finger suddenly tapped onto the tip of Lynn's nose at this moment. "Lynn, and why are you here?" The young woman cocked her head to the side as she stared at the man before her with bright eyes. "Air." And Lynn faltered slightly before replying, "I walked all the way here from the Heart-Examining Lake." "You crossed the Heart-Examining Lake?" The young woman was astonished. "Hee. I have a spotless Tao heart, so crossing the Heart-Examining Lake was as easy as walking on flat ground." And Lynn replied with a smug expression, "That's impressive," the young woman exclaimed. It could be seen that the girl's exclamation was not out of flattery, but out of genuine astonishment. And Lynn felt extremely comfortable. This was the first time he had used his Tao heart to act cool, and the experience was pretty good. "You still haven't answered me, Vermilion Bird Princess. Have you been resurrected?" And Lynn pinched her cheek to find that it was soft and smooth to the touch. It seemed to be real, and Lynn's perverted hand was slapped away by the girl. "I'm not dead at all. Resurrection my ass." The girl pouted coquettishly. "I just turned into a light and escaped." "You think you can kill me? Stop your wishful thinking." And Lynn wasn't enraged. Instead, he was quite elated after confirming the Vermilion Bird Princess' identity. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I was sad for you for nothing." The Vermilion Bird Princess' eyelashes fluttered upon hearing this, and her eyes lit up with a smile. "I didn't think that you would be sad for me. It's rare for me to meet someone in the deity transformation realm who can compete with me. It would be a pity if he died. I knew there were no idiots who would rather die than run. So you were faking your death." And Lynn sighed with emotion. "You don't understand. I really was fighting you with the intent to die. That was my honor, the honor of the Sun Tree War God, understand?" The Vermilion Bird Princess retorted in a crisp voice. "Oh," and Lynn chimed in. He knew that he wasn't going to die, so he was fighting with the intent to die. There was nothing wrong with that. The Vermilion Bird Princess glared at Lynn upon seeing his expression. She was just about to say something when a thought suddenly occurred to her, and she pursed her lips before speaking in a soft voice. "In any case, thank you for what you did at the arena." "You're welcome. It's my duty." And Lynn waved his hand in a gentlemanly manner before asking, "Speaking of which, Vermilion Bird Princess, why are you here?" The Vermilion Bird Princess blinked with a smile. "Let me tell you a secret. I'm actually a descendant of the Vermilion Bird tribe, and I'm a very powerful one. This is my home, so no one knows that I've snuck into the arena to play. Except for you." And Lynn rolled his eyes. "You have a lot of free time on your hands?" The Vermilion Bird Princess nodded vigorously. "That's right. I have a lot of free time." A thought then seemed to occur to her, and she pursed her lips. "It's a pity that the Vermilion Bird Princess is already dead. The next time I go to the arena, I'll have to transform into a different form." Gasp! And Lynn drew a sharp intake of breath. "You still want to participate in the competition?" "I'm bored to death in the Sun Tree, so I have to do something." The Vermilion Bird Princess smiled with excitement. "Let me tell you, I'm going to participate in the competition in 100 different forms and obtain 100 titles of the Sun Tree War God. After that, I'll fill the entire Battle God Shrine with 100 different forms. What do you think of this plan?" And Lynn drew a sharp intake of breath as his eyes widened in shock. What a breathtaking plan! A smile appeared on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face upon hearing Lynn's words, as if she had just heard the best compliment in the world. The two of them were like old friends who hadn't seen each other for a long time, and it was very natural. Perhaps this was a case of no discord, no concord. They had both acknowledged each other in their hearts, and it was as if they were heroes who shared a similar bond. "You said you want to participate in the competition in different forms. So which one is the real you? The Vermilion Bird Princess standing before me isn't a fake either, is she? No, this is the real me. This is one of my 2 essential forms. Then what's your other form? Can you let me see it? Heh, no way. All right. And Lin was a little dejected before asking, but why do you keep staring at the arena? Because the arena is the only place where the sun tree is fun. Can't you go outside the sun tree to play? The world outside is so vast, and there's so many things to play with. A dejected expression appeared on the vermilion bird princess' face upon hearing Lin's words. After a moment of silence, the vermilion bird princess replied, I can't leave the sun tree for some reason. Can't leave the sun tree. And Lin muttered to himself. All of a sudden, a thought flashed through his mind like a bolt of lightning. He had heard that the guardian of the sun tree was unable to leave the sun tree for some reason. And the vermilion bird princess was also unable to leave the sun tree. The guardian of the sun tree was very mysterious. The vermilion bird princess was also very mysterious. Even the return to Void Stage vermilion bird referee didn't recognize her, let alone the spectators. It could be said that the vermilion bird princess identity was a mystery. The biggest secret of the sun tree was most likely the guardian of the sun tree. Could it be? And Lin raised his head and swallowed as he looked at the adorable young woman in front of him. The vermilion bird princess was the guardian of the sun tree. Chapter 945. The vermilion bird princess was the guardian of the sun tree. This was not an unreasonable speculation. In fact, it could be said that this was a very high possibility. And Lin stared at the young woman before him with a hint of desire in his eyes. The method to obtain the first stage of the Yang God cultivation method was to find the guardian of the sun tree and make mouth-to-mouth contact with the sun tree before activating the engulfment technique to absorb the essential power of Yang from the sun tree. The vermilion bird princess seemed to have noticed Lin's scorching gaze, and she silently took a step back with a cautious expression. What are you thinking about? And Lin coughed lightly. Didn't you say that you wanted to thank me for what I did at the arena? The vermilion bird princess nodded, and Lin took 2 steps forward and looked at the young woman who was standing right in front of him. She had a set of large eyes, an intricate nose, and delicate cherry lips. She looked adorable and pure, yet full of vitality. Just words of gratitude are not enough. I want a present. And Lin smiled. What present? The vermilion bird princess hesitated for a few seconds before looking up at the man before her. And Lin swallowed before wrapping his arms around the vermilion bird princess' slender waist. You. A crisp, pleasant voice had only just escaped her mouth before it was sealed off, and Lin was caught off guard and kissed her. The vermilion bird princess' lips were a little cool and sweet, as if she had just bathed in the water of true een. The vermilion bird princess was dumbstruck, and her eyes widened in shock. And Lin knew that he only had an instant of opportunity, and he immediately activated his engulfment technique. That's right, this was the most aggressive method, but it had the highest success rate. He didn't have much time left, and if he chose to slowly nurture her feelings, he would most likely fail. He wouldn't be able to overcome this psychological barrier, and he would be letting down the vermilion bird princess. Besides, he didn't know how to pick up a bird. If he forced a kiss on her, it would be very sudden, but it had the highest success rate. Furthermore, the vermilion bird princess was his friend, so he probably wouldn't be beaten to death. Time passed by very quickly, but it also felt like an eternity. This kiss was a sudden memory for Lin. This was even more of a surprise to the vermilion bird princess. The vermilion bird princess' body stiffened a little, and Lin used the engulfment spell, but discovered something shocking, and that was he was unable to absorb the sun tree's essential yang energy. Yes, there was no reaction. Could it be that his posture was wrong? And Lin thought for a moment, then stretched out his tongue to pry open her lips and touch the girl's white teeth. The vermilion bird princess shuddered, and she finally came to her senses before abruptly pushing Lin away. And Lin was greeted by the sight of the vermilion bird princess trembling as she stared at him. Her intricate features were as red as a ripe apple. Air, Vermilion Bird Princess, this is the present I wanted. And Lin felt like something was amiss, as if he had mistaken her for someone else. So he forced himself to speak. The air froze in that instant. The Vermilion Bird Princess had appeared in front of Lin again, and she kicked her other leg through the air, leaving a crimson afterimage in her wake. So fast! And Lin's pupils contracted. He had no time to evade, and the red high heel landed heavily on his lower abdomen. Boom! Space exploded, and an indescribable force came crashing down with earth-shattering force. And Lin could hear his bones shattering and his internal organs shattering. Pwah! He threw up a mouthful of blood as his body flew through the air before crashing into the wall of white vines. The boundless force of the collision made the entire sun tree tremble, and Lin fell to the ground, and his body curled up into a ball from the excruciating pain. The body of the war god that he was so proud of had been broken by the Vermilion Bird Princess with a single kick. The Vermilion Bird Princess was even more powerful now than she was at the arena. Pervert! Shameless pervert! The Vermilion Bird Princess was enraged, and she looked like she was about to explode as she made her way toward Lin. Wait, this is a misunderstanding. I was wrong. And Lin begged for mercy. The Vermilion Bird Princess gritted her teeth and became even more enraged upon hearing this. Misunderstanding? Irresponsible. Shameless. Scumbag. And Lin was just about to speak again when a red high heel appeared before him. And Lin, boom! This time his chest caved in from the kick. However, this was not the end of the barrage. A torrential barrage of attacks rained down upon him. Thump, thump, thump. Bang, bang, bang. Clatter, clatter, clatter. Puff, puff, puff. How dare you take advantage of me? Die, 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 die. Ah, I'm going to beat you to death. Don't hit me here. Ah, my first kiss is gone. Die, 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 die. Ah, save me. At the end of the heart-examining lake, ghostly wails and thunderous collisions reverberated through the air. After what seemed like an eternity, the Vermilion Bird Princess was finally exhausted, and she sat down beside Lin while panting heavily. And Lin's face was swollen and bruised, and there was not a single part of his body that was unscathed. If any other return to Void Stage mighty figure had been in his place, they would have died at least a dozen times over. The price of this kiss was a little high, and Lin was extremely remorseful. Most importantly, he seemed to have kissed the wrong person. The Vermilion Bird Princess was most likely not the guardian of the Sun Tree. The Vermilion Bird Princess glared at Lin with a cold expression. Why did you suddenly kiss me? It's a misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. And Lin shook his head relentlessly. You have to listen to my explanation. All right, then explain, the Vermilion Bird Princess urged. This. And Lin faltered upon hearing this. How was he supposed to explain this? He had only said it in passing. The Vermilion Bird Princess' cheeks were still flushed, and her fists were clenched tightly as if she were thinking about something. She suddenly asked upon seeing Lin's expression, You like me? And Lin's expression shifted drastically. I really don't. Don't misunderstand. I swear on my integrity. The Vermilion Bird Princess' expression darkened. Which means you don't have any feelings for me. Yet you forced a kiss on me. You're playing with my feelings? Misunderstanding. Listen to me. Pwah. And Lin yelled at the top of his lungs, but he didn't even get a chance to finish a sentence before a ferocious fist and a pair of terrifying red high heels flew toward him. Thump, 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 bang, 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 clatter, 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 clatter. Puff, 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 and Lin's severely wounded body was ravaged again, and he let loose a string of blood-curdling cries. The intense battle that he had envisioned did not take place, as he didn't have the power to fight the Vermilion Bird Princess at all. The Vermilion Bird Princess was even using her power of the F** King Divine Tao after a torrential storm. and Lin lay lifelessly on the ground with wounds riddled all over his body. It hurt, it really hurt. The Vermilion Bird Princess wasn't holding back at all. She really was beating him to death. The Vermilion Bird Princess stomped down on Lin with a frosty expression. If you still view me as a friend, then answer my questions honestly. Why did you kiss me? Chapter 946. Why did he kiss her? There was no way to explain this. If he really did explain, then wouldn't all of his plans be exposed? If he told the truth, then he wanted to kiss the guardian of the Sun Tree? He would probably be beaten to death by the Vermilion Bird Princess. And Lin looked at the Vermilion Bird Princess with an aggrieved expression. This was not an act. He really was feeling very aggrieved, and he couldn't even speak about it. The Vermilion Bird Princess pursed her lips and harumphed as she removed her foot from Lin's chest. She pressed her legs together and knelt down beside Lin with an angry expression. Is there something you can't tell me? And Lin was almost moved to tears upon hearing this. That's right. If I could tell you, I definitely wouldn't hide it from you. I had no intention of toying with your emotions. But you did kiss me. The Vermilion Bird Princess was still very angry. And Lin, this girl was very shy at times, but she was very straightforward, very brave, and very shrewd when it came to emotions. Thus, the two of them fell into silence. And Lin pulled out the blood-soul jade coffin and swallowed a spirit pill as he lay down in the coffin. The blush on the Vermilion Bird Princess' face gradually faded as she stared at Lin with her large, bright eyes. Shameless, Lin. I think you should give me a reasonable explanation and compensation. After all, my consciousness has been severely wounded. And Lin looked at the Vermilion Bird Princess with a resigned expression. You've already hit me and yelled at me. Are you still not satisfied? What the hell do you mean by your consciousness being severely wounded? The Vermilion Bird Princess chuckled lightly. Think about it. If you were kissed by a pig, would you think nothing would happen to you? And Lin, why did that sound so hurtful? The Vermilion Bird Princess blushed slightly as she pursed her lips. Of course, it's not as serious as I'm making it sound, but that's the gist of it. So you have to tell me your motive for kissing me. That's right, there was always a motive for everything. Even if you say that you like me and can't help yourself, I'll accept it. As the young girl spoke, her voice gradually became softer, and Lin instantly tensed up upon hearing this. He was a very cautious person when it came to relationships, so he naturally wasn't going to admit that he liked the Vermilion Bird Princess. That would make him a scumbag who played with emotions. No. He shook his head and looked at the tired and lonely woman in front of him. His gaze was firm as he said, Forget it, I was wrong. I shouldn't have hidden it from you. I choose to be honest. After that, you can continue to beat me and scold me, and I'll accept it. But you have to promise that you won't tell other living beings about this. The Vermilion Bird Princess nodded without hesitation. All right, swear it. And Lin was still worried. The Vermilion Bird Princess extended her index and middle finger without hesitation and made a vow to her Tao heart. It didn't matter whether she told the others or not. She just wanted to know the truth. And Lin took a deep breath before coming clean. I actually have a cultivation method that requires me to kiss the guardian of the Sun Tree in order to successfully cultivate it. If I can't kiss the guardian of the Sun Tree after 10 days, I'll become a retard. I kissed you before because I thought you were the guardian of the Sun Tree. I'm sorry, Vermilion Bird Princess. He apologized sincerely again. The Vermilion Bird Princess fell into a slight daze, and her eyelashes trembled slightly. So that's how it is. Did you get the wrong person? Your answer is a little bizarre, but it makes sense. A thought then occurred to her, and she turned to Lin with incredulity on her face. You want to kiss the guardian of the Sun Tree? The Vermilion Bird Princess stared at Lin as if he were a lunatic. And Lin had anticipated this reaction, and he nodded calmly. That's right. I have to do this in order to not become a retard. The Vermilion Bird Princess That's the craziest thing I've ever heard of. The Vermilion Bird Princess looked at Enlin, and her expression softened significantly. However, you're very honest to tell me about this. At the very least, you don't view me as an enemy. I don't want to lie to you. And Lin smiled. Friends should be more honest with each other. He was actually taking a gamble on something. Friends? The Vermilion Bird Princess expression shifted slightly. That's right. We don't get to know each other if we don't fight. And Lin nodded. At the same time, he added in his heart, even though he could only take the beating now. The Vermilion Bird Princess' eyes flashed, and a faint smile appeared on her face, as if she had thought of something fun. She turned to Enlin with a serious expression. Are you really going to kiss the guardian of the sun tree? I can't help it. And Lin wore a concerned expression. Seeing as that's the case, we're friends now, and friends should help one another. I know of a secret passageway nearby that can lead to the 9th level, and you can meet the guardian of the sun tree there, the Vermilion Bird Princess said in a mysterious voice. And Lin was ecstatic to hear this. That's great. You really are my lucky star, Vermilion Bird Princess. No problem. We'll set off after you recover from your injuries, the Vermilion Bird Princess replied with a dainty smile. But I can't show my face, so don't give me away. Also, if you encounter any difficulties on the 9th level, you have to deal with them yourself. I can't help you. And Lin nodded emphatically. I understand. Don't worry. The Vermilion Bird Princess storage ring flashed, and a shimmering white fruit appeared in her hand. She tossed the fruit to Enlin. Have one. It's good for replenishing yang and blood. This. And Lin detected the aura of the fruit to find that it was a 7th grade immortal fruit. You're so generous. I did beat the crap out of you, after all. So this sun fruit from the 7th level is my compensation, the Vermilion Bird Princess said with a nonchalant expression. And Lin also felt bad for himself, so he lay down on the coffin and ate the fruit. The flavor of the sun fruit was very similar to that of an apple in that it was sweet and sour. The power of yang within the fruit transformed into a warm flow that flowed through his entire body, making him feel extremely comfortable. Not only did his flame power increase slightly, but even his injuries were healing at an extremely fast rate. It's delicious. And Lin couldn't help but praise. Hey, I still have a lot of sun fruits. I'll give you 1 or 2 when I'm in a good mood, the Vermilion Bird Princess said with a smug expression. Vermilion Bird Princess, you're my friend for sure. And Lin spoke with a serious expression. Not long after that, and Lin's injuries were completely healed. The Vermilion Bird Princess led the way with light footsteps, and Enlin trailed behind her. The two of them passed by the small lake that the Vermilion Bird Princess had bathed in and traveled upstream along a small stream. After passing through 7 restrictions, they finally arrived at a gate with ripples all over it. Even with Enlin's powerful divine sense, he was unable to see through the gate to see what was going on inside. The Vermilion Bird Princess dragged Enlin through the gate. After a rush of dizziness, they arrived on a black continent. There were many places with colorful immortal energy revolving around them, as if they were glowing pearls in the dark night. There were also all types of areas with extremely powerful energy, fluctuations emanating from them, which appeared to be special mystic realms. The Vermilion Bird Princess didn't stop. She dragged Enlin into a white circle of light before attaching a pair of white wings onto his back. Shameless, En. With these wings, you won't have to worry about the sun tree's flight restriction anymore. It can carry you to the 9th level, so good luck. The Vermilion Bird Princess waved farewell with a smile. Thank you, Vermilion Bird Princess. And Lin was extremely touched. It could be said that this woman had provided him with the most crucial assistance in freeing him from his mental retardation. He would remember this kindness. The white wings began to flap, and Enlin slowly rose into the air. The Vermilion Bird Princess finally pulled out a projection crystal after Lin disappeared from her field of vision. She licked her lips with a sly expression. Shameless, In. You didn't expect me to install a recording crystal on my wings, did you? The show is about to begin. I'm really looking forward to it. Chapter 947. Beside the heart-examining lake. Hei Tinga and Baishinga stared blankly at the white mist. They felt that fellow Taoist Lin and was on his way back. Senior Baishinga, 2 hours have already passed, Hei Tinga said expressionlessly. Baishinga knew that his chances were slim, and a look of despair appeared on his face. I was wrong. I shouldn't have come here to compete with him. Senior, why are you apologizing to me? You should apologize to that person. Hei Tinga sighed. Fellow Taoist Lin and has most likely made it to the other side of the heart-examining lake, and it looks like he's most likely been beaten to death. Instead of being condemned by that person, why don't we take the initiative to admit our mistakes? Perhaps we'll receive a lesser punishment. Baishinga felt that this was reasonable. Let's go. Let's go apologize. Hei Tinga looked up at the vast expanse of white mist with a forlorn expression before extending a slight bow. Rest in peace, Mr. Lin, and Lin had gained a pair of wings that could allow him to soar into the sky. He was currently flying high, heading towards the 9th level. He was thinking about how to get a kiss from her on their first meeting. Pooh! It couldn't be said to be cheating. It was how to get a kiss. The guardian of the sun tree wasn't a Tao integration stage mythological beast. So even if he forced a kiss on it, it probably wouldn't die. However, if there was a more reliable method, he wouldn't refuse it. Everything could only be decided after they met and understood the specific situation. Soon, Lin passed through the thick white fog. The dazzling sunlight fell on his body, giving him a layer of golden brilliance. He looked up curiously and saw a very small piece of land. The land was only about 1/10 of the size of the 7th layer. The incomparably thick tree trunk became sharper and sharper at this point. After passing through the land, it shrank like a cone. Whether it was the trunk or the leaves, they had all turned transparent, and Lin landed on the ground of the 9th level. This continent was also made up of intertwining branches and leaves. Because the branches and leaves were transparent, he could even see the drifting clouds below. If it wasn't for the fact that he could feel the ground beneath his feet, he would have felt like he was walking on clouds. He looked around in confusion, but didn't find anything special. It was the center of the continent. Beside the closed trunk, there was a strange tree. The tree was transparent, but the fruits on it were translucent and iridescent. Strange, where's the guardian of the sun tree? And Lin was quite confused as he walked toward the strange tree. What was very surprising was that after reaching within 100 feet of the sun tree, the omnipresent white mist around the sun tree strangely disappeared, as if it had never existed in the first place. Standing at the top of the sun tree, he could see the boundless landscape before him. The ground below was a vast expanse of green, and it was connected to the clear blue sky in the distance. In fact, one could even see the undulating mountain ranges in the extremely far distance. If one's vision was good enough, they might even be able to see the entire southern heavenly wing nation. He turned his gaze to his feet and opened his mouth slightly. His gaze pierced through the translucent 9th layer of the continent and saw a black circular continent. Outside the black circular continent was an even larger white ring. That was the portion of the 7th layer that was larger than the 8th layer. Beyond the 7th layer was the 6th layer's purple ring, followed by blue, red, yellow, orange, green. Every layer of the continent was a brightly colored ring. Due to the fact that the continent's surface area was progressively decreasing, from Lin's point of view, it had become a spectacular spectacle with colorful rings revolving around it, and it glowed with a mesmerizing light under the illumination of the sun. It was like a gargantuan rainbow lollipop. So beautiful. And Lin was stunned by this scene, right? I also think this place is very beautiful. A very pleasant voice sounded from behind him. and Lin's body shuddered, and his heart was instantly filled with excitement. If there was another voice here, then it would definitely belong to the guardian of the sun tree. A friendly smile appeared on his face as he turned around. "Hello, beautiful guardian of the sun tree. F***ck me." And Lin's smile gradually congealed as he stared blankly at the scene before him. Tens of thousands of mythological beasts stampeded over his heart, and he temporarily lost the ability to think. What had appeared before him was a golden fireball exuding an extremely scorching aura. The terrifying temperature imbued by the fireball was even making the surrounding space warp and shatter. If one ignored its white eyes and pink little mouth, this was a miniature sun. No, even if it had eyes and a mouth, it was still a sun that was half the size of a grown man. The flame energy was extremely pure, without the slightest bit of impurities. Only the flames of the sun could possess this type of attribute, and Lin's flesh crawled upon hearing this. Was the beautiful woman who had just spoken really the sun before him? Was her voice the sun? Who are you?" he asked with difficulty. "And who are you?" the sun asked in a crisp voice. "And Lin, tell me who you are first." The little sun: "Why do I have to tell you first?" "I promise I'll tell you who I am after you tell me," and Lin replied with a serious expression. The little sun was caught off guard, and the fireball rolled downward as she nodded. "I am the guardian of the sun tree, Ili," and Lin's mouth gaped open as the final line of defense in his heart finally crumbled, and tears welled up in his eyes. Even though he had already guessed this, tears still flowed uncontrollably from his eyes after this possibility was confirmed. He was going to kiss a sun. Ha 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 ha. A peal of crisp laughter sounded from the Black Continent. The Vermilion Bird Princess looked at the projection projected from her wings, and she doubled over in laughter at the sight of Lin's dumbstruck expression. "It's your turn now. Who are you?" Ili asked, and Lin came to his senses and took a deep breath. "Hello, Guardian. I am the new mythological beast of the Sun Tree, the Vermilion Bird Man. I came here because I wanted to see you in person." PFFF. The Vermilion Bird Princess almost threw up a mouthful of blood upon seeing this. She stared at the crystal with an enraged expression. "Shameless and where's your face?" Only mythological beasts had the right to enter the 9th level, so Lin made up a lie. Ili was a little surprised. Another immortal beast from our sun tree has progressed to the Tao integration stage? This is fantastic news. How come I've never heard of this? And Lin explained with a straight face, "I only recently progressed to the Tao integration stage, so I haven't had a chance to announce this yet." "Oh." Ellie nodded at the Golden Maid's head in disbelief. She circled around Lin as if she was inspecting him, and the scorching aura emanating from her body made the space around her twist and crumble. If a normal return to void stage mighty figure were standing here, they would most likely be melted by now. Thankfully, Lin had thick skin, but even so, the scorching heat was unbearable. "Then how did you get up here? Even if you're a mythological beast of the Sun Tree, you have to request permission from me through the Divine Tree." Ili was still a little confused. A faint smile appeared on Lin's face as he made his way toward the shimmering golden sun before tapping a finger on its cheek. "I gained a pair of wings and flew into the sky in search of the light in my heart, only to encounter you. In other words, this is all fate." Ili's body shuddered upon hearing this, and the golden fireball became even more vibrant. And Lin withdrew his finger with a smile, and his face convulsed. Even his body of the war god was unable to protect his finger, which had already been charred black. He looked at the little sun before him, and a string of curses ran through his heart again. For the first time, Lin developed a sense of fear toward a forced kiss. If he were to kiss her, he could die